Chapter 1701. Chapter 1701. Chapter 1701. Go back the way we came. Let's rest here for a while. Although the human demon wanted to go back and snatch the chilline fruit, he wasn't so impulsive as to rush back immediately. After all, the human demon's strength wasn't at its peak. Demons that were not at their peak would not be able to use their trump cards. The human demon was well aware that as long as he couldn't use his trump card, then even if he returned, he was doomed to fail to compete for the chilline fruit. After warning Ning Yu, the human demon sat cross-legged on the ground, took out an immortal crystal, and began devouring it. Back then, the brocade-robed cultivator did not hesitate to take out 50 immortal crystals in order to keep the human demon. From the looks of it, it was fortunate that the embroidered-robed cultivator had taken out the 50 immortal crystals. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for the human demon to recover to his peak state in a short time. Could it be that human demon wants to kill his way back? The human demon's actions caused Ning Yu to frown slightly. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. If the human demon wanted to leave, he would have already left the chilline cave. Since the human demon hadn't left, that meant he was still brooding over the chilline fruit and wanted to kill his way back. Forget it. I'd better recuperate as soon as possible. Ning Yu couldn't do anything about the human demon's actions. In any case, the fact that human demon was going to kill his way back was already a foregone conclusion. What Ning Yu needed to worry about was his condition. If he could adjust his mental state to its peak before killing his way back, he would have a higher chance of survival. Taking out a Saint-grade origin crystal from his storage ring, Ning Yu circulated his spirit transformation technique to the maximum and began his journey of recovery. Ning Yu's recuperation was different from that of the demonic humans. The human demon simply wanted to recover to his peak, while Ning Yu wanted to take another step forward and reach the quasi-heavenly sovereign realm. Only Ning Yu would dare to do such a crazy thing. If it was anyone else, they would not dare to take the risk. Going from the 9th grade Earth Sovereign Realm to the quasi-heavenly Sovereign Realm might seem like half a level, but it was a huge leap. One was an Earth Supreme, the other a Sky Supreme. With Ning Yu's current strength, he could contend with a late-stage Sky Supreme. According to Ning Yu's estimation, if he could reach the quasi-heavenly Sovereign Realm, then he could even confront a pinnacle Heavenly Sovereign. Therefore, this risk was completely worth it. While Ning Yu and the human devil were recuperating, in the deepest depths of the chilline cave, beneath the chilline tree. Buzz! The void trembled, and an old man in grey robes quietly appeared. After the grey-robed elder appeared, he first set up a small formation around the chilline tree, then stomped his feet heavily on the ground. Catcher! Catcher! The ground suddenly split open, and a huge corpse slowly rose from the crack. The chilline's corpse. If Ning Yu and the human demon were here, they would have noticed that the corpse that rose from the crack was the chilline's corpse. Chilline fruit. The grey-clothed old man stared at the 4 chilline fruits and his lips curved up in an unnatural smile. In order to cultivate 4 matured chilline fruits, the grey-clothed old man had searched almost all the small plains and plundered more than a dozen chilline corpses. The reason why the grey-clothed old man had chosen to cultivate the chilline fruits in the immortal spirit realm was because the plain barrier there was slightly loosened, allowing him to unleash the strength of a sage. In other small plains, the plain barrier was still intact, so he could only unleash the strength of an early-stage sage. To be on the safe side, the grey-clothed old man had to choose the immortal spirit realm. Go! The grey-clothed old man stared at the first chilline corpse, then shook his head and controlled the corpse to fly toward the chilline tree. Rumble. While flying, the chilline corpse suddenly exploded. Countless pieces of flesh flew everywhere and entered the chilline tree. Bang! As soon as the chilline corpse entered the chilline tree, one of the chilline fruits let out a dull sound. This muffled sound signified that the chilline fruit was beginning to reach its final stage of ripening. Again, seeing that the first chilline corpse was effective, the grey-clothed old man took out another chilline corpse from the crack and used the same method to force it into the chilline tree. Bang! What happened next was more or less the same. Every time a chilline corpse was thrown into the chilline tree, a chilline fruit would let out a dull sound. After throwing 7 or 8 chilline corpses into the chilline tree, the grey-clothed old man finally stopped to rest. To be honest, Although the grey-clothed old man had thrown the Chilean corpse into the Chilean tree with ease, he was extremely nervous. At this time, he could not be disturbed by others, or all his efforts would be in vain. As long as I throw the remaining 8 Chilean corpses into the Chilean tree, the 4 Chilean fruits will be fully mature. The grey-clothed old man did not dare to relax. He rested for 3 minutes and then immediately began to work. Bang! As time went on, one by one, the corpses were thrown into the Chilean tree. After being transformed by the Chilean tree, all of them flowed into the Chilean fruits. Go! In the blink of an eye, the 16th corpse appeared from the crack and flew toward the Chilean tree. This is the last one. Seeing the Chilean corpse flying toward the Chilean tree, the grey-clothed old man's face was filled with joy. He had spent so much time and did not hesitate to descend from a high-level realm just for the 4 Chilean fruits. Now that success was right in front of him, how could he not be excited? Whoosh! However, the grey-clothed old man's excitement was a little premature. Before the last Chilean corpse could explode, the stone wall in the distance suddenly cracked. 2 figures appeared in the grey-clothed old man's sight. As expected. As soon as they appeared, the human demon glared at the grey-clothed old man and said coldly, "Due to the suppression of the realm barrier, you can only unleash the strength of a perfected sage for now." "You guys again." The grey-clothed old man clenched his fists when he saw the human demon and Ningyu. The anger on his face became more and more obvious. "If I knew that you guys were so arrogant, I would have killed you guys just now. You want to kill us?" The human demon's lips curled up and he said disdainfully, "If you were confident that you could kill us, you would have done it long ago. You definitely wouldn't have let us leave." The human demon had seen through everything. Although the grey-clothed old man could unleash the strength of a perfected sage, he was wary of the human demon's trump card, so he did not make a move earlier. After all, the grey-clothed old man's main goal was to obtain the Chilean fruits, not to take risks. "Just you wait." The grey-clothed old man glared at the human demon. Then, with a thought, he controlled the last Chilean corpse and made it explode. Rumble. The 16th Chilean corpse was the largest one. Its explosion was extremely terrifying. Fortunately, the grey-clothed old man had a backup plan. Even if he sent the fragments of the explosion into the Chilean tree, it was very likely that all his efforts would have been in vain. Phew. After sending the last Chilean corpse into the Chilean tree, the grey-clothed old man could not help but let out a long breath. Chapter 1702. Boom. 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 The last Chilean corpse did not disappoint the elder. 4 muffled sounds came from the Chilean fruit. Every muffled sound was like an immortal's tune, making the elder extremely excited. Ha ha ha. The grey-robed old man threw his head back and laughed. His laughter was very arrogant. Whoosh! At that instant, a cold glint suddenly shot out from Ningyu's body. Chilean ring. Ningyu's expression changed when he saw the cold glint. Ningyu had tried his best to put the Chilean ring into his spatial ring, but the Chilean ring had broken through the ring's defenses and flew out. What? Ningyu wasn't the only one who was shocked when the Chilean ring flew out from the spatial ring. Even the elder's eyes widened. The elder's reaction was fundamentally different from Ningyu's. Ningyu was surprised that the Chilean ring had broken through the ring's defenses, but the elder was very interested in the Chilean ring. Although the elder and the Chilean ring were both in the Chilean cave, the elder was in the deepest part of the Chilean cave, while the Chilean ring was in the middle of the cave, on top of a giant Chilean skeleton. Furthermore, the Chilean ring did not emit any special aura, so it was reasonable that the elder had not noticed it. The elder stared at the Chilean ring in midair, the joy in his eyes growing stronger. Good, good, good. Very good. The grey-clad old man spat out the word good repeatedly. He was so excited that he almost jumped up. Soon, the grey-clothed elder took a deep breath and tried his best to calm himself down. Come out, I know you're in there. The elder looked at the Chilean ring and said, I can spare your life if you're willing to submit to me. Millimeter? The elder's words left Ningyu and the human demon dumbfounded. What's going on? Is there someone in the Chilean ring? Ningyu and the human demon's gaze instantly shifted to the Chilean ring. They wanted to see what was inside the Chilean ring. However, no matter how hard Ningyu and the human demon probed, they couldn't find any clues. Whoosh! Ningyu and the human demon couldn't find any clues, but it didn't mean that there was nothing in the Chilean ring. Suddenly, a cold light shot out from the Chilean ring and charged towards the grey-robed old man at an extremely shocking speed. Looking at the cold light that was charging at him, the elder in grey curled his lips. He stood where he was and did not move. Bang! Although the cold light was fast, it was blocked by a transparent barrier before it could reach the grey-robed old man. A small-scale array formation. In order to ensure that the 4 Korean fruits would smoothly ripen, the grey-clothed old man arranged a small array formation around them. If the cold light wanted to get close to the grey-robed old man, it would have to break through the small array formation. It was very obvious that with Cold Gleam's current strength, it was very difficult to break open the small-scale array. Ha ha ha, I wasn't mistaken. You really are a Chilean. The grey-clothed old man stared at the body of the cold light and could not help but raise his head and laugh maniacally. The true form of the cold light was none other than a genuine Chilean. The only thing that could make the grey-robed elder excited was the Chilean. Chilean. Seeing Cold Gleam reveal its true form, Ningyu and the human demon looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. It was a Chilean. Even the weakest Chilean was abnormally terrifying in strength. The Sage Realm. Although the Chilean in front of them was small in size and age, its cultivation was at the early stage of the Sage Realm. At that moment, Ningyu instantly understood. No wonder he could feel anger and irritation from the Chilean ring. It turned out that those emotions were coming from the Chilean in front of him. Actually, it made sense. Anyone would be extremely angry that their own clansmen were being used as nourishment for Chilean fruits. It was not easy for this Chilean to endure until now. Help me break the array formation and I will give you a great opportunity. The Chilean's childish voice rang in Ningyu and the human demon's ears. Ningyu and the human demon were stunned when they heard the Chilean's words. Little Chilean. The Chilean in front of them had probably just been born. Strictly speaking, this Chilean was equivalent to a 5-year-old child. I'll give you one last chance. Submit to me. The grey-robed elder's voice rang out at the right time and he said coldly, or die. Me. You killed my clansman, so I will definitely take your life today. The little Chilean snorted coldly, not losing to the grey-robed elder at all. Although the little Chilean's cultivation was only at the early stage of the Sage Realm, it might not be weaker than the grey-robed elder in a real battle. After all, the Chilean clan's body was abnormally tough. Just by relying on its body, the little Chilean could fight against a late-stage Sage Realm martial artist. Although the grey-robed elder could unleash the strength of a Sage Realm perfected, the little Chilean could use the Chilean's aura to suppress the grey-robed elder's strength in the Chilean cave and fight him head-on. Seeing that the conflict between the little Chilean and the grey-robed elder was getting worse, Ningyu could not help but look at the human demon. The current situation was very clear. The little Chilean wanted to fight the grey-robed elder. In fact, Ningyu still hoped that the human demon would help the little Chilean. Putting aside the fact that the little Chilean had come out of the Chilean ring, he should help the little Chilean from both sides. After all, the enemy of an enemy was a friend. Although Ningyu wanted the human demon to help the little Chilean, it was not convenient for him to say it out loud. After all, fighting with the grey-robed elder was extremely dangerous, and he might die here if things went awry. However, what happened next forced Ningyu to bite the bullet and look for the human demon. Big brother, can you help little Chilean just this once? A pleading voice suddenly came from the Yuzuan pagoda and entered Ningyu's ears. The golden-haired little girl. The one who spoke was none other than the golden-haired little girl in the Yuzuan pagoda. If it was someone else pleading with Ningyu, Ningyu might have considered it. However, Ningyu did not dare to slight the golden-haired little girl's request. He had promised the black-robed cultivator that he would not let the golden-haired little girl suffer. Now that the golden-haired little girl had a request, he naturally had to agree. Moreover, Ningyu had already determined that the golden-haired little girl had a deep relationship with the Chilean clan. Helping the golden-haired little girl was the same as helping the Chilean clan. With the Qilin clan's way of doing things, he would definitely not suffer a loss. Senior human demon, I would like to ask for your help to break the array formation. Ningyu gritted his teeth and said to the human demon. Break the array formation? The human demon was taken aback. He did not understand what Ningyu meant by this. In the human demon's heart, he was very unwilling to help the little Qilin. The human demon's thinking was very simple. He would sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. As long as the little Qilin and the grey-robed elder fought, both of them would definitely be heavily injured. Once the two of them were heavily injured, he would go and snatch the Qilin fruit. Wouldn't that be easy? Chapter 1703. A Qilin Senior. I actually have one last drop of true dragon blood on me. Seeing the human demon's reaction, Ningyu gritted his teeth and fished out a jade bottle. True dragon blood. The jade bottle contained the blood of a true dragon. In order for Ningyu to protect the golden-haired girl, the mysterious powerhouse had given Ningyu 3 drops of true dragon blood before leaving with the crystal coffin. Of the 2 drops, a small portion had been consumed by Ningyu's body tempering. Most of it had been devoured and refined by the human demon. It was thanks to the 2 drops that the human demon had been able to resolve the energy seal's explosion. Otherwise, he would have been dead a long time ago. Although there was only 1 drop of true dragon blood left, Ningyu had still taken it out for the human demon to help the little Qilin. Senior, as long as you can help break the formation and join forces with the little Qilin to defeat the grey-robed elder, it's yours. Ningyu shook the jade bottle in his hand. The human demon didn't answer Ningyu immediately. Instead, he stared at the jade bottle in Ningyu's hand with a fiery expression. Why had the human demon come all the way to the Qilin cave? Wasn't it to find enough energy to deal with the next explosion of the energy seal? Now that the opportunity was right in front of him, how could the human demon not be excited? In fact, a frightening thought surfaced in the human demon's mind. Subdue Ningyu and snatch the true dragon blood. However, this thought only lingered in the human demon's mind for a split second before it was quickly tossed to the back of his mind. The human demon wasn't the kind of person who would bite the hand that fed him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been schemed against back in the higher planes. Taking a deep breath, the human demon turned to Ningyu. Since you've asked, I must help. With that, the human demon stomped the ground and turned into a blur as he charged at the grey-robed elder. Whoosh! Before the human devil could reach the grey-robed old man, the surrounding array formations suddenly rose up and a barrier blocked the human devil's path. Open! The human demon clenched his fists and let out a low roar before smashing his fists against the barrier. Kai Kai! Violent yuan qi pulsed on the human demon's fist. The might of the human demon's punch had reached a terrifying level. Catcher! In just one move, the human demon had shattered the barrier. Then, the human demon raised his fist again and smashed it against the barrier. Ka. Every time the human demon raised his fist, the barrier would emit a cracking sound. Just a little more. The grey-robed elder paid attention to the barrier as well as the changes in the Qilin fruit. With 16 Qilin corpses as fertilizer, the 4 Qilin fruits grew rapidly, instantly ripening by 2/3. At this rate, it would only take 3 minutes at most for the 4 Qilin fruits to completely ripen. Because the Qilin fruit was of utmost importance, the grey-clothed old man allowed the human demon to attack the barrier without interfering. Time was ticking away. The grey-robed elder paid close attention to the changes in the Qilin fruit. The human devil was attacking the barrier with all his might, and the little Qilin was floating in the air, preparing for something. As for Ningyu, he took a few steps back, paying close attention to the surroundings. Earlier, the grey-robed elder had broken the middle-aged man's legs and threatened him to leave. At that time, the middle-aged man had indeed left, but who knew if he would return like the human demon? If the human demon and the grey-robed elder were both injured, and the middle-aged man suddenly returned, wouldn't they be finished? Therefore, Ningyu's main task was to survey the surroundings. If there was any disturbance, he could inform the human demon in advance and have him prepare. Right at this moment, the human demon's fist brought with it a violent yuan qi gale as it smashed against the barrier. Rumble. With a loud rumble, the barrier shattered from the inside out. The barrier was the protective umbrella of an array formation. Now that it was broken, it meant that the array formation's defensive power was greatly reduced. What happened next could be predicted. After the human demon blasted open the barrier, it only took him a dozen seconds to successfully break through the formation. Hand over your life. As soon as the human demon destroyed the array formation, the small Chileen in midair rushed toward the grey-robed elder. Damn it, only 10 seconds left. Seeing the small Chileen rushing toward him, the grey-robed elder couldn't help but curse. 10 seconds. Only 10 seconds were needed for the 4 Chileen fruits to fully ripen. How could the grey-robed elder not be angry when the small Chileen attacked him at this time? However, anger aside, the grey-robed elder could only bite the bullet and fight back. How dare a newly born Chileen behave atrociously in front of me? I'll cripple you. The grey-robed elder's eyes were unusually cold as he rushed toward the small Chileen and said fiercely. At the same time, the grey-robed elder displayed the aura of a perfected saint and crazily pressed down on the small Chileen. The grey-robed elder's idea was simple. If he could use his aura to suppress the small Chileen, then he could turn back and control the Chileen fruits. Although the grey-robed elder wanted to subdue the small Chileen, he wasn't stupid. It would take a long time to subdue the small Chileen, and the human demon beside him definitely wouldn't give him that much time. Pluck the 4 Chileen fruits, kill the human demon, and finally find a way to subdue the small Chileen. That was the grey-robed elder's plan. However, the plan couldn't keep up with the changes. Kill. The small Chileen bellowed when it saw the grey-robed elder rushing toward it. Following the bellow, a huge Chileen shadow appeared in the sky above the small Chileen. What? The sudden change caused the grey-robed elder's expression to change drastically. The Chileen shadow above the small Chileen's head was very real. If the grey-robed elder's cultivation hadn't surpassed a sage, he definitely wouldn't have known that the small Chileen had summoned a Chileen shadow. However, even though the grey-robed elder knew that the small Chileen had summoned a Chileen shadow, his expression still turned ugly. This was because the Chileen shadow summoned by the small Chileen was unusually terrifying. Moreover, the grey-robed elder could even feel a sense of oppression from the Chileen shadow. The grey-robed elder shifted his gaze slightly and looked at the small Chileen. Chileen true blood. The grey-robed elder's already gloomy face became even darker when he looked at the small Chileen. The reason the small Chileen could summon the Chileen shadow was because it was constantly consuming the Chileen true blood. The amount of Chileen true blood consumed by the small Chileen shocked even the grey-robed elder. In a short period of time, the small Chileen had already consumed more than 10 drops of Chileen true blood. That was the Chileen true blood, an existence comparable to the true dragon blood. It wasn't just the grey-robed elder. Even Ning Yu and the human demon's eyes widened in shock. What a wastrel, what a wastrel. Chapter 1704. Chapter 1704. Chapter 1704. True Dragon Heart Blood. The human demon did not think about it, and Ning Yu did not dare to think about it either. Ning Yu and the human demon looked at each other and saw the fervor in each other's eyes. Neither Ning Yu nor the human devil spoke. Even if he wanted the Chileen true blood, he would have to have the ability to do so. The reason why the little Chileen was willing to expend so much Chileen true blood to summon the Chileen projection was to kill the grey-robed elder. If Ning Yu and the human devil could help the little Chileen kill the grey-robed old man, it might be possible for them to get a few drops of Chileen true blood. However, Ning Yu and human demon weren't confident that they could kill the old man. No, it was the human demon who did not have absolute confidence in killing the grey-robed old man, not Ning Yu. As a 9th-grade Earth Sovereign, not to mention killing the grey-clothed elder, even approaching the grey-clothed elder was as difficult as ascending the heavens. Bang! 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 Suddenly, 4 muffled sounds came from within the Kirin fruit. Hearing the sudden muffled sound, the grey-robed elder's face revealed a look of pleasant surprise. It had matured. After bitterly waiting for so many years and going to so many small plains, the Kirin fruit had finally ripened. How could the old man not be excited? A matured Chileen fruit could allow a sage to unconditionally advance by a small level. If all 4 were to be swallowed at the same time, It could even allow a martial artist who had surpassed the sage level to ascend. This was also the reason why the grey-clothed old man was so excited. The grey-robed old man was an existence that surpassed sages in the higher planes. However, in the sect that the grey-robed elder belonged to, the grey-robed elder wasn't the sect master, but the vice-sect master. Deity Transformation Sect. The grey-robed old man was the vice-sect master of the Divine Transformation Sect in the high-level existential plane. His name was Mo Chenya. In order to seize the position of sect master of the Divine Transformation Sect, Mo Chenya didn't hesitate to travel to various small planes to plunder Chileen corpses to cultivate Chileen fruits. Now that the Kirin fruit had been raised, Mo Chenya's first thought was to leave rather than continue entangling himself with the little Kirin. Where there's life, there's hope. He would return to his own high-level plane, swallow 4 Chileen fruits, advance his cultivation, and then seize the position of sect master of the Divine Transformation Sect. Then, he would think of a way to send the experts of the Deity Transformation Sect to the immortal spirit realm to capture the little Kylin and the human demon. Wouldn't that be perfect? Ha ha ha. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. He couldn't help but laugh wildly. Kill. Little Chileen didn't care about Mo Chenya's silly smile. It only had one thought in its mind, and that was to kill Mo Chenya. Boom. In midair, the Chileen phantom image rushed out and arrived in front of the grey-robed old man in the blink of an eye, clashing head-on with him. Poochie. In just one exchange of blows, the grey-robed old man was sent flying several feet away by the Chileen phantom. He crashed heavily against the stone wall and spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Just you wait. I, Mo Chenya of the Deity Transformation Sect, will not forgive you. With no time to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, Mo Chenya left behind some ruthless words. Then, he uprooted the Chileen fruit and tore through the void to enter. Where are you going? Seeing the grey-robed old man enter the void, Human Demon's expression changed drastically. He immediately waved his hand and fanned out a terrifying palm print. Human Demon's attention had always been on Mo Chenya. It would be very difficult for Mo Chenya to leave under Human Demon's attention. Crack. Human Demon didn't hesitate to use his trump card to display the terrifying power of a saint at the full circle. The void exploded. Mo Chenya was blasted out by Human Demon's powerful palm print. You. After being blasted out of the void, the grey-robed old man stared fiercely at Human Demon and said coldly, "You're finished. Offending me, Mo Chenya, is equivalent to becoming the enemy of the entire Deity Transformation Sect." Bah. Human Demon spat and said disdainfully, "When I was at my peak, I could destroy a small sect like the Deity Transformation Sect with one hand. Shameless boasting. We'll meet again." Mo Chenya clenched his fists. Then, his figure flickered and entered the void again. This time, Human Demon didn't continue to attack. Human Demon was currently equivalent to an early-stage saint. The reason he could display the power of a saint at the full circle was because he used his trump card. Trump cards were called trump cards because they couldn't be used continuously. It wasn't easy for Human Demon to use one of his trump cards at the risk of serious injuries. Fart. Although Human Demon didn't continue to attack, Mo Chenya was still blasted out of the void. This time, it was the Chileen phantom. The Chileen's attack was even more terrifying than the Human Demon's trump card. Not only was Mo Chenya blasted out of the void, but he also suffered fatal injuries. Ha ha ha. Despite his injuries, Mo Chenya still threw his head back and laughed wildly. I know, I finally know. Has he lost his mind? Human Demon was a little puzzled by Mo Chenya's actions. He thought that Mo Chenya had lost his mind. Mo Chenya hasn't lost his mind. He saw through the Chileen phantom, Ningyu said solemnly. What do you mean? Human Demon asked. The Chileen phantom's strength is terrifying, but every time it attacks, it consumes a large amount of Chileen true blood and time, Ningyu explained. In this situation, the Chileen phantom will need at least 3 minutes to attack a third time. With that said, Ningyu glanced at the Human Demon and said, "You've already used your trump card. You won't be able to use it a second time in a short period of time." Mo Chenya is excited because of this. Swoosh. Human Demon's expression turned ugly at Ningyu's analysis. If Ningyu's analysis was correct, then all of them were likely doomed. Right at this moment, Ningyu took a step forward and shook the last drop of true dragon blood in the jade bottle. He then said to Mo Chenye, "Take out 2 Chilean fruits and I won't use this drop of blood." "Are you trying to scare me?" Mo Chenye's lips curled up in disdain. "I wasn't afraid even when the little Chilean took out so much Chilean true blood. Do you think I'd be afraid of that drop of true dragon blood in your hand? Don't try to act smart." Ha ha ha. All of a sudden, Ningyu threw his head back and laughed maniacally. After laughing madly, Ningyu said gloomily, "To tell you the truth, this drop of true dragon blood in my hand is the heart blood of an ancient golden dragon. It's far from something an ordinary Chilean's blood can compare to. So long as I use this drop of true dragon heart blood, think about what will happen to you." "Impossible. How could you have the heart blood of a true dragon?" Mo Chenye shook his head continuously. He didn't believe Ningyu had the heart blood of a true dragon. There were 3 kinds of blood in a true dragon. The weakest was true dragon blood essence, which was also known as true dragon blood. A little stronger was the blood of a true dragon. A single drop was equivalent to countless drops of true dragon blood. As for the 3rd kind, it was the essence blood of a true dragon. Every ancient giant dragon had a drop of lifeblood in their body. 1 drop of lifeblood was equivalent to many drops of blood from the heart. Although Mo Chenye didn't believe Ningyu's words, his legs betrayed him. Mo Chenye's legs were slightly trembling. Chapter 1705. Chapter 1705. Chapter 1705. To strike suddenly a Kirin fruit. Mo Chenye glanced at the Chilean in the air and then said to Ningyu through gritted teeth, "This is my bottom line." The human demon was dumbfounded after hearing Mo Chenye's words. Had Mo Chenye lost his mind? How terrifying was the true dragon's heart blood? No matter how powerful Ningyu was, it was impossible for him to possess the true dragon's heart blood. However, what shocked the human demon even further was yet to come. Ningyu's attitude was extremely unyielding as he coldly said, 3 Chilean fruits, not 1 less. "You're forcing me to take action." Mo Chenye's eyes flickered incessantly as he struggled with his thoughts. Mo Chenye didn't make a move because he wasn't sure whether the blood in Ningyu's hand was the true dragon's heart blood or not. Mo Chenye was also worried. If Ningyu really had the true dragon's heart blood, wouldn't he have to bear the consequences if he acted rashly? But Mo Chenye didn't want to hang around without taking action. 3 more minutes, just 3 more minutes, and the Chilean in the air would be able to unleash another powerful attack. At that time, it would be very difficult to escape. Mo Chenye was caught in a dilemma. He couldn't take action, but he also couldn't stay put. It was just that Mo Chenye would never agree to hand over the 3 Chilean fruits even if he was beaten to death. "Kid, becoming my enemy is the same as becoming the enemy of the God Transformation sect." Mo Chenye stared at Ningyu and said, "As long as you give me the true dragon's heart blood, I can take you away from the immortal spirit realm. I also promise to make you the vice sect master of the Transformation God sect. You can use all the resources of the Transformation God sect as you please." Ningyu raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "That's a good suggestion, but I've always been a practical person. Don't come up with those empty promises. Give me some benefits first." How could Ningyu not know what he was up to? However, what Ningyu needed to do now was to stall for time and not to completely fall out with Mo Chenye. As long as they could stall for time until the Chilean Phantom regained its combat strength, then all the problems would be easily solved. After all, Mo Chenye was already seriously injured at the moment and was far from being able to exert the combat power of a saint in the great perfection. Of course there are benefits. A cold light shot out from Mo Chenye's eyes. He clenched his teeth and took out the Chilean tree. "If you give me the true dragon heart blood, I can give you the Chilean tree." Mo Chenye was extremely confident. He thought that Ningyu would definitely fall for it. After all, the Chilean tree could bear Chilean fruits, and this was a fatal temptation to immortal spirit realm cultivators. "Do you think I'm an idiot?" Ningyu curled his lips and said with disdain, "Although the Chilean tree can bear Chilean fruits, without a Chilean corpse, How am I supposed to raise it? You can't say that. In this world, apart from the Chilean's corpse, there is another thing that can help the Chilean tree survive. Mo Chenye said with a mysterious expression, the world tree. As long as you can find the world tree and use its liquid, you can speed up the growth of the Chilean tree and shorten the time it takes for the Chilean fruit to ripen. Hearing this, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. In the eyes of outsiders, using the world tree's liquid to nurture the Chilean tree was extravagant and impossible. But in Ningyu's eyes, it was very easy. He had the world tree, and it had taken human form. Once he obtained the Chilean tree, he would only need a few drops of Ninglu's blood to successfully nurture the Chilean tree and speed up the ripening of the Chilean fruit. One Chilean tree and one Chilean fruit. At this point, Ningyu pondered for a moment and then said, in exchange for the true dragon heart blood in my hands, you've made a profit. Deal. As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, Mo Chenye said in a low voice, I'll count to 3. I'll give you the Chilean tree and the Chilean fruit, but you have to give me the true dragon heart blood. Then, ignoring Ningyu's reaction, Mo Chenye immediately began to count. 1. When Mo Chenye spat out the word 1, Ningyu's expression was a little exaggerated. What kind of person is this? I haven't even said a word, and you're already counting to yourself. 2. When Mo Chenye said 2, Ningyu couldn't help but look at the little Chilean in the air. The little Chilean's action made Ningyu's heart go cold. The little Chilean shook its head lightly, its expression full of unwillingness. Afterward, Ningyu shifted his gaze to the human demon. The human demon's reaction wasn't much different from the little Chilean's. At this point, Ningyu's heart sank to the bottom. In truth, Ningyu wasn't worried that Mo Chenye would suddenly attack him. Ningyu was worried that Mo Chenye would fly into a rage after discovering that he hadn't given him the true dragon heart blood. 3. At this time, Mo Chenye spat out the word 3. With a wave of his hands, Mo Chenye threw the Chilean tree and the Chilean fruit at Ningyu. Swish. Seeing that Mo Chenye hadn't gone back on his word, Ningyu gritted his teeth and threw the jade bottle in his hand. At this point, Ningyu knew that if he didn't hand over the true dragon heart blood to Mo Chenye, the latter would definitely attack him. If he handed over the true dragon heart blood, there was still a chance that Mo Chenye would immediately flee with the true dragon heart blood. Gamble. Ningyu was gambling. Ha ha ha. The next moment, Mo Chenye threw his head back and laughed wildly. He controlled the Chilean tree and Chilean fruit to fly back the way they came. Cheating. Mo Chenye was obviously cheating. Brat, I'll give you a lesson today and let you know what reality is. Mo Chenye reached out with both hands, grabbing the Chilean tree and Chilean fruit with his left and the jade bottle Ningyu had thrown at him with his right. At the same time, Mo Chenye's feet were moving rapidly. It was obvious that he was ready to retreat as soon as he grabbed the jade bottle. 3 minutes were about to pass. If he didn't leave now, he might never be able to leave. Mo Chenye wasn't a fool. He naturally knew what to do. Phew. Mo Chenye's actions caused Ningyu to let out a long sigh. As long as Mo Chenye left, everything was fine. A drop of true dragon heart blood for a few lives. No matter how he looked at it, Ningyu had profited. Come here. But at this time, a sudden change occurred. The tower of Yuzuan on Ningyu's body suddenly shook. Then, a figure shot out from the tower of Yuzuan. A golden-haired little girl. The one who came out of the tower of Yuzuan was not a human, but a golden-haired little girl. After coming out, the golden-haired little girl opened her mouth wide and a terrifying suction force erupted from it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. This suction force was abnormally terrifying. In the blink of an eye, the Chilean tree, Chilean fruit, and jade bottle were sucked over. Pa pa pa. The golden-haired little girl didn't even look at these things. She lightly patted the Chilean tree and Chilean fruit and threw them to Ningyu. Chapter 1706. Planar Barrier Rumble. As soon as the golden-haired girl rode on the little Chilean, the Chilean projection above the little Chilean merged with it. After merging with the Chilean projection, the little Chilean's aura soared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Early stage sage, mid-stage sage, late-stage sage. Bang! With a muffled sound, the little Chilean's aura soared to the limit of the immortal spirit realm. Perfect stage sage. Not good. Mo Qianye's expression changed drastically when he felt the terrifying aura emanating from the little Chilean. He hurriedly turned his head and wanted to leave this area. If he had left before the little Chilean's aura soared, he would have been able to leave smoothly. But now, it would be very difficult for him to leave smoothly. Swoosh. The little Chilean charged at Mo Qianye furiously. Smack. It raised its tail and whipped Mo Qianye's back fiercely. The burning sensation from his back made Mo Qianye grimace in pain. Where there's life, there's hope. Just you wait, I'll be back sooner or later. Mo Qianye glared fiercely at the little Chilean and Ningyu. Then, he burned his blood essence and tore open the void to quickly enter. Want to leave? Not so easy. Seeing that Mo Qianye wanted to leave, the golden-haired girl clenched her fists and said coldly, "No one can save you from becoming enemies with the Chilean clan." The little Chilean was even more furious than the golden-haired girl. With a loud roar, a terrifying shockwave shot out and followed Mo Qianye into the void. Fart. It didn't take long. Mo Qianye fell from the void. Crack, crack, crack. Mo Qianye's eyes became extremely gloomy. He gritted his teeth and said, "The Chilean clan has been scattered. It won't be so easy to kill me with a wisp of Chilean's will. I'll leave this place even if I have to be seriously injured." Bang! Bang! Mo Qianye kept hitting his chest with both hands. He seemed to have gone mad. Although Mo Qianye's body was already seriously injured, his aura was still rising rapidly. Oh no, he's going to display an aura surpassing perfect stage sage. This action caused Ningyu and the human demon's expressions to shift drastically. This was the immortal spirit realm. Once Mo Qianye unleashed his aura that surpassed the sage perfection stage, the entire immortal spirit realm would be destroyed. Since Mo Qianye dared to do this, it meant that he definitely had a way to leave the immortal spirit domain. Mo Qianye had a way to leave the immortal spirit domain, but Ningyu, the human demon, and even the golden-haired girl and little Chilean had no way to leave the immortal spirit domain. As long as the plane barrier of the immortal spirit realm locked onto the Chilean cave, Ningyu and the others would have to leave this place in the shortest time possible. Otherwise, they would definitely die. Ha ha ha. All of you must die. Mo Qianye laughed wildly after seeing Ningyu and the human demon's flustered expressions. All of you, come out. Mo Qianye laughed wildly as he unleashed his aura without holding anything back. Shio. Mo Qianye had just unleashed his aura when the immortal spirit realm's plane barrier locked onto this place. At the same time, a terrifying pillar of light shot down from the heavens towards the Chilean cave. I'm not going to play with you guys anymore. Mo Qianye's lips curled up. Then, a strand of his primordial spirit separated from his body and tore through the void. The primordial spirit had escaped. In order to live, Mo Qianye didn't hesitate to abandon his body. Of course, when he abandoned his body, Mo Qianye also abandoned the last 3 Chilean fruits. What's going on? The immortal spirit realm's plane barrier made all the martial practitioners above the peak sky supreme level feel their hearts tremble. This trembling came from the depths of their hearts. Martial practitioners above the peak sky supreme level could completely feel the existence of the plane barrier. They knew very well that the plane barrier of the immortal spirit realm had 2 uses. First, it stopped the martial practitioners from the higher planes from descending. Second, it killed all the martial practitioners who surpassed the sage realm. Either of these 2 scenarios was enough to shake an immortal spirit realm expert. Now that the demon spirit realm was attacking the immortal spirit realm, if the martial practitioners from the higher planes descended at this time, it would be even worse for the immortal spirit realm. As for killing the martial practitioners who surpassed the sage realm, that was even more terrifying. When a martial practitioner who surpassed the sage realm unleashed a powerful attack right before their death, it could even destroy the entire immortal spirit realm. At this moment, almost all the strongest martial practitioners in the immortal spirit realm turned their gazes towards the Moling mountain range, towards the Chilean cave. What happened? In Giant Shield City, which was very close to the Moling mountain range, Elder Tianji's brows furrowed into a crescent shape. For some reason, no matter how much he tried, he couldn't divine what was going on. Try again. Elder Tianji gritted his teeth and tried again. Fart. But Elder Tianji's second attempt still ended in failure. Risking his life to divine in the end, this was the first time in the last few decades that Elder Tianji had failed. Master. Jushin immediately helped Elder Tianji to sit on a chair and said with concern, "Please don't divine anymore. I know what I'm doing." Elder Tianji waved his hand and said, "Go out, I want to be alone for a while." "Yes." Jushin nodded, then moved his feet and left the room. However, when Jushin left, his eyes revealed a sinister look. "Old fart, I've followed you for so long, but you still haven't taught me the divination art. I'll give you 3 more days. If you don't teach me the divination art after 3 days, don't blame me for being rude." Jushin clenched his fists and turned to walk towards the giant shield city lord's residence. Moling mountain range, Qilin cave. Ningyu and the human demon's expressions were extremely cold, extremely cold. Mo Qianye had left. What should they do? The scene became very gloomy. Hide in the Qilin ring. The golden-haired girl on the little Qilin's back suddenly broke the silence. The Qilin ring is the ultimate treasure of the Qilin race. It might be able to withstand the impact of the planar barrier. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go in. The human demon didn't waste time. He leaped into the air and turned into a blur, the first to enter the Qilin ring. Swoosh, swoosh. Ningyu, the golden-haired girl, and the little Qilin moved at the same time and entered the Qilin ring. Rumble. As soon as the 3 of them entered the Qilin ring, a terrifying pillar of light exploded from the planar barrier above the Qilin cave and slammed into it. Whoosh. The terrifying pillar of light almost caused the Qilin cave to collapse in an instant. Everything that came into contact with the pillar of light turned to dust. With the Qilin cave as the center, all the vegetation in the surroundings was uprooted. Moreover, the terrifying shockwave continued to spread. Chapter 1707. Tremor. Whoosh. The terrifying shockwave from the dimensional barrier not only made Ningyu and the human demon's scalps go numb, but even all the beasts in the Moling mountain range trembled from the depths of their hearts. Who was the strongest in the celestial spirit realm? Martial practitioners below the peak sky supreme level would probably think that sages were the strongest. But to those who had reached the peak sky supreme level or even surpassed it, the strongest being in a lower realm like the celestial spirit realm was not the sages, but the dimensional barrier. As long as you were in the celestial spirit realm, not to mention sages, even existences that surpassed sages were not as strong as the dimensional barrier. Ningyu and the human demon hid in the Qilin ring, but all the beasts in the Moling mountain range were not so lucky. The dimensional barrier had almost never failed to destroy something in a lower realm like the celestial spirit realm. So all the beasts in the Moling mountain range fled with all their might, wanting to leave the Moling mountain range before the shockwave spread. It was a good idea, but the result was exceptionally cruel. Isn't the Moling mountain range a forbidden area? What kind of terrifying existence did we offend? Everyone, hurry up and run. If we're any later, we might all die here. Run! Run my ass. Such a terrifying shockwave, even a sage. Fart. The last beast in the air had not even finished speaking when it spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Its body had been split into 2 by the powerful shockwave. Fut fut fut. After the shockwave killed the demonic beast, it did not stop at all. Instead, it spread out in all directions at a terrifying speed. All sorts of shouts, angry voices, and uneasy voices rose and fell in the Moling mountain range. But these shouts did not last for long before they dissipated. Evidently, the terrifying shockwave from the dimensional barrier had left as quickly as it had come. When the dimensional barrier realized that it had killed Mo Qianye, it ceased all banners and disappeared. Although the dimensional barrier had disappeared, the entire upper echelons of the celestial spirit realm were still trembling. This situation lasted for a few hours before it returned to normal. Investigate. Investigate at all cost. The most furious person in the entire celestial spirit region was the current palace lord of Emperor God Palace. The current palace master of Emperor God Palace wasn't very old, but his face was extremely cold. The palace master of Emperor Divine Palace was called Di Xiao. He had just come out of an extremely mysterious cultivation place 3 days ago. Di Xiao's current cultivation was at the half-step saint realm. However, even in the Emperor Divine Palace, there were less than 5 people who knew Di Xiao's true cultivation. As for the fact that the Emperor Divine Palace had a sacred grade essence crystal mine in the Moling mountain range, as well as the existence of the one-armed man, a semisage realm old ancestor, almost none of the Emperor Divine Palace's warriors knew about this. Wait. Di Xiao abruptly stood up from his chair, gently pressed his right hand down, and said in a deep voice, "I'll go personally. While I'm not here, you only have one task, and that is to properly entertain the messengers of the demon spirit realm. Remember, do not neglect them." Whoosh. As his voice faded, Di Xiao tore open the void with both of his hands and went straight in. Buzz. Not long after Di Xiao disappeared, a slight fluctuation appeared in the void of the entire area. This fluctuation was very weak, obviously appearing from those who had a deep understanding of space. Obviously, the Emperor Divine Palace still had a group of experts who had a deep understanding of space. In a life-and-death battle between warriors of the same cultivation, the warrior who had a deeper understanding of space would have a much higher chance of winning. Only Di Xiao knew about the existence of this group of warriors. Because all of these people were brought here by Di Xiao from his training site. Whoosh. At the same time, Moling mountain range, in the area where the Chiline cave was located. To be precise, it should be above the ruins where the Chiline cave was located. In a huge pit, a cold light suddenly rushed out from the bottom. The speed of the cold light was very fast, almost in the blink of an eye, it rushed out of the hundreds of feet deep pit. Whoosh, whoosh. Then, a few figures flew out from the cold light. These figures were none other than Ningyu, human demon, and the others. Whoosh. After coming out, Ningyu first looked around, then couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Although Ningyu's cultivation had not reached the peak of the Sky Supreme level, he knew about the existence of the plane barrier. To be able to survive the impact of the plane barrier, it had to be said that Ningyu and the others were probably the first people in the immortal spirit realm to survive. But no one wanted to be the first. Because if they were not careful, they might be targeted by the plane barrier. As long as one was in the immortal spirit realm, even a sage would not want to be targeted by the plane barrier. Luckily, there is no problem with the Chiline ring. The little Chiline looked at the ring on the golden-haired little girl's finger and revealed a relieved expression. The Chiline ring was the most precious treasure of the Chiline clan. If it was destroyed by the little Chiline would definitely feel bad. Ningyu, the 4 Chiline fruits and the Chiline tree, I'm handing them all to you. The little Chiline took a deep breath and turned around to look at Ningyu. I've said it before, as long as you're willing to help me break the formation, I'll give you a great fortune. Now, it's time to fulfill my promise. Hearing the little Chiline's words, human demon could still keep his cool, but Ningyu revealed an excited expression. Ningyu was now a peak 9th grade Earth Supreme. If he could receive the little Chiline's blessing, then wouldn't it be a matter of time before he became a Sky Supreme? No matter how weak the little Chiline was, its cultivation was still at the initial stage of the sage realm. To receive the blessing of an initial stage sage Chiline was the dream of many cultivators. Ignoring Ningyu's expectant expression, the little Chiline threw 4 drops of blood to Ningyu. Of these 4 drops of blood, 2 are the Chiline's heart blood, and 2 are the Chiline's innate blood. Divide the 2 drops of Chiline's heart blood into 4 portions and place them into the 4 Chiline fruits. After that, you can devour and refine the Chiline fruits. As for the 2 drops of Chiline's innate blood, unless it's absolutely necessary, I advise you not to use them. Every drop of Chiline's innate blood can save your life. After speaking, the little Chiline brought the golden-haired little girl into Ningyu's Yuzuan pagoda. Gulp. The moment the little Chiline disappeared, human demon couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. In fact, the human demon even pinched his own thigh. Only when a pained expression appeared on his face did human demon stop. Chiline's heart blood, Chiline's innate blood, and 4 Chiline fruits. This opportunity was truly irresistible to the human demon. Looking at Ningyu, the human demon couldn't help getting more excited. Ningyu was truly his lucky star. First, it was the 2 drops of true dragon's blood, and now it was the Qili's innate blood. Chapter 1708. Kill. The human demon was still heavily injured and had yet to recover from the aftereffects of using his trump card. This matter was originally the human demon's greatest concern. After all, the human demon still needed to find enough energy before the next energy seal broke. But now that he had the Qilin heart blood, Qilin blood, and Qilin fruit, this matter would vanish into thin air. Even a mature Qilin fruit or a drop of Qilin heart blood could restore the human demon to his peak state. Of course, due to the suppression of the energy seal, even if the human demon recovered to his peak state, his cultivation would only be equivalent to an early sage. His battle prowess would only be on par with a peak early sage. As for the human demon's trump card that allowed him to unleash the battle prowess of a perfect sage, he wouldn't be able to use it for the next 3 days. With the Qilin heart blood and Qilin life blood, the human demon didn't really care whether or not he could use his trump card. The human demon looked at Ningyu, then at the Qilin fruit and Qilin blood floating in the air. He clenched his teeth and said, "Ningyu, I don't want the Qilin tree, but I want 1 Qilin fruit and a drop of Qilin lifeblood." The human demon paid close attention to Ningyu's expression as he said this. If Ningyu didn't agree, the human demon could reduce his demands at any time. After all, the human demon was heavily injured, and Ningyu still had the little Qilin and the terrifying golden-haired girl. The human demon didn't want to be enemies with Ningyu. Senior must be joking. These things are the little Qilin's gift to us. We should divide them equally. Ningyu smiled and flicked his wrist, tossing the 2 Qilin fruits, the Qilin tree, a drop of Qilin heartblood, and a drop of Qilin lifeblood to the human demon. Although Ningyu and the human demon were using each other. Back at the Saint Grade crystal mine, without the human demon's help, Ningyu might have already been killed by the embroidered robed cultivators. Know how to repay kindness. If others are good to me, I'll be good to them. This was Ningyu's code of conduct. Alright, since that's the case, I won't be unreasonable. After being with Ningyu for so long, human demon had already figured out Ningyu's personality. The human devil didn't exchange any more pleasantries with Ningyu. He accepted the 2 Qilin fruits, a drop of Qilin heartblood, and a drop of Qilin lifeblood. As for the Qilin tree, the human devil didn't want it. After all, in order to nurture a Qilin tree, one would need either a Qilin corpse or a world tree. Human devils didn't have these 2 things, so the Qilin tree was useless to him. Although he knew that the human demon didn't want the Qilin tree, when the human demon returned the Qilin tree to him, Ningyu still felt a little excited. The human demons couldn't nurture the world tree, but he could. As long as Ninglu dripped a few drops of his blood on the Qilin tree every once in a while, it would provide enough nourishment for the Qilin tree. After all, although the Qilin tree was precious, it paled in comparison to the world tree. Ninglu isn't easy to fool. Thinking of that mischievous Ninglu, Ningyu suddenly felt a headache coming on. If he wanted Ninglu to willingly provide his blood, Ningyu would probably have to spend a lot of money first. In Ningyu's opinion, if he wanted to convince Ninglu, he would need at least a Qilin fruit or a drop of true dragon blood. Forget it, we'll talk about it when the time comes. Ningyu shook his head, then put away the Qilin fruit and Qilin heart blood. Ningyu wasn't as crazy as the human demon. After taking the Qilin fruit, the human demon split a drop of Qilin heart blood into 2 and inserted one into the Qilin fruit. Following that, the human demon swallowed one of the Qilin fruits right in front of Ningyu. After swallowing the Qilin fruit, the human demon sat down cross-legged and began to use a technique to refine and absorb the energy. Although the energy pressure was temporarily gone, the human demon wasn't satisfied. He wanted to use the Qilin fruit to recover his strength to its peak, then make a trip to the Pill Creation Continent's Alchemy Union. The human demon's plan was very simple. He wanted to find a way to break the energy seal in his body while he was still in the immortal spirit realm. Only by breaking the energy seal in his body could the human demon have a chance to enter the higher realm he was originally from and find the person who had framed him. The human demon didn't tell Ningyu about this. He just kept it to himself. After all, from the human demon's point of view, Even if Ningyu knew, he definitely wouldn't be able to help. After all, the person who framed him was an extremely terrifying existence even in the higher realms. Ningyu was only an immortal spirit realm cultivator. Wasn't it asking him to make an enemy out of a higher realm cultivator? Ningyu didn't know what the human demon was thinking. After accepting the Chilean fruit, he sat cross-legged on the ground and began to use a technique to recuperate. Right now, Ningyu's plan was very simple. He would first adjust his mental state to its peak, then swallow the Chilean fruit and strive to break through to the Sky Supreme realm. Actually, Ningyu had considered one thing. This place had just been bombarded by the planar barrier. It was very likely that it would attract the attention of other factions and send experts over. But when Ningyu saw the human demon's extremely natural expression, he immediately dispelled his worries. Even the human demon wasn't worried, so what was there for him to worry about? He would deal with the situation as it came. Even if high-level experts came, the human demon would be there to hold them off. Even if the human demon couldn't hold them off, there was still the little Chilean in the Tower of the Ascension of You. As the saying went, even if the sky collapsed, there was still a tall person to watch over it. Ningyu's current state of mind was pretty much the same. However, Ningyu didn't completely pin his hopes on the human demon and the little Chilean. As he recuperated, he spread out his perception, paying close attention to the surroundings. If there was even the slightest sign of trouble, Ningyu would immediately inform the human demon. Recuperating was always boring. In order to adjust his mental state to its peak, Ningyu spent a full 2 hours. In these 2 hours, the human demon had already completely refined the Chilean fruit. After refining the Chilean fruit, the human demon was clearly more excited. A fully matured Chilean fruit could allow a sage-level cultivator to unconditionally ascend an entire level. Although the human demon was an existence that surpassed sages in the higher planes, and his body was suppressed by the energy seal, the benefits that a single Chilean fruit could bring to the human demon was still terrifying. The strength that the human demon could display now was equivalent to a mid-sage. Moreover, the human demon could feel that the energy seal in his body had weakened a little. The Chilean fruit could suppress the energy seal. The human demon almost jumped up in surprise when he heard this news. If the Chilean fruit could suppress the energy seal, then why not use the remaining Chilean fruit? Not good. The human demon's expression suddenly changed as he thought of this. Who's sneaking around? Hurry up and show yourself. The human demon roared as he looked into the distance. Wang. As the human demon roared, the space he was staring at began to tremble. Chapter 1709. Rage. If you dare to touch Ningyu, I'll definitely kill you. The human demon couldn't help cursing when he saw the figure charging towards Ningyu. At this moment, the human demon even regretted his actions. Right from the start, the human demon had already noticed a cultivator hiding in the surrounding space. Since the cultivator's aura was weak, the human demon didn't pay any attention to it. The reason why the human demon didn't pay any attention to it was because he thought that he could stop someone even if they suddenly attacked. But who could have imagined that the cultivator hiding in the void had reached the half-saint realm? In fact, the human demon still didn't put a half-saint realm cultivator in his eyes. After all, after devouring the Chilean fruit, the human demon's strength had reached the middle saint realm. If a middle saint realm cultivator wanted to deal with a half-saint realm cultivator, it would be as easy as crushing an ant. But now, the human demon was extremely vexed to the extreme. The human demon had always thought that he was the half-saint's target. Even if the half-saint wanted to launch a sneak attack, he would be the target. Who would have thought that the half-saint would change his target at the last moment and shift his target to Ningyu? Ningyu's cultivation was only at the pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereign Realm. He hadn't even reached the Heavenly Sovereign Realm. The outcome of a cultivator with such a cultivation against a half-saint was practically predictable. I'll kill you, then slaughter my way to your sect and eradicate them all. In order to intimidate the half-saint, the human demon unleashed his middle saint realm aura as he roared and frantically pressed towards the half-saint. The human demon's plan was simple. He wanted to intimidate the half-saint so that the half-saint wouldn't dare to act recklessly against Ningyu. If he could only intimidate the half-saint, then the human demon's goal would be achieved. As Di Xiao charged towards Ningyu, he was having an intense battle in his heart. On one hand, he knew that the human demon was a middle saint realm cultivator. If he made an enemy of the human demon, it would mean that he had made a terrifying enemy for the Emperor Palace. But on the other hand, he really wanted to kill Ningyu, because Di Xiao sensed Mu Yunshan and Ninghai's aura from Ningyu. For so many years, Di Xiao had been sending experts to search for Ninghai. Di Xiao had been brooding over Mu Yunshan breaking off the engagement. Di Xiao had a special characteristic. If he couldn't get his hands on something, he would definitely destroy it. Therefore, after Mu Yunshan rejected the marriage with him, he tried every possible way to take revenge. Although Mu Yunshan wasn't particularly favored in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple because of this incident, Di Xiao was still rather fearful of the colossus that was the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Di Xiao was afraid of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, but it did not mean that he was afraid of Ninghai. Di Xiao had issued many orders. As long as they found Ninghai, they would be killed without mercy. Now that he sensed Mu Yunshan and Ninghai's aura from Ningyu, Di Xiao instantly concluded that Ningyu was the little bastard in his heart. Therefore, even at the risk of being targeted by the human demon, a middle-stage sage warrior, Di Xiao still resolutely attacked Ningyu. He wanted to kill Ningyu here and now. Kill. Di Xiao, who was in a state of madness, completely ignored the human demon's warning and pressure. He shouted in a low voice. Then, the blue veins on his right arm bulged, and he fiercely smashed towards Ningyu's head. Di Xiao's goal was very clear. He wanted to smash Ningyu's head with one punch. Only by killing Ningyu could Di Xiao relieve the hatred in his heart. After I kill you, I'll go find your father. Little bastard, you're lucky to die in my hands. Di Xiao's face was ferocious, as if success was right in front of him. Real dragon blood. At this critical moment, Ningyu's heart jumped, and he hurriedly swallowed the last drop of real dragon blood. Bang! Fortunately, Ningyu had experienced the tempering of 2 drops of real dragon blood, which allowed him to swallow and refine the blood at an extremely fast speed. Almost in an instant, the drop of real dragon blood was refined by Ningyu. Of course, it wasn't a complete refinement. At best, it was only half of it. But that 50% had allowed Ningyu's aura to rise from the pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereign Realm to the pinnacle Heavenly Sovereign Realm, just a step away from the Quasi-Saint Realm. Last time, Ningyu had swallowed 2 drops of real dragon blood, and his cultivation had risen from peak 5th grade Earth Supreme to peak Sky Supreme. This time, Ningyu had only swallowed 1 drop of real dragon blood, and his cultivation had risen to peak Sky Supreme. The reason was that Ningyu's physique had become much stronger after the tempering of 2 drops of real dragon blood. Moreover, he had also refined half of the real dragon blood. Yin-yang palm. Ningyu didn't feel excited because of the increase in his aura. Instead, his face became extremely solemn. Swinging his right hand, the dark gold blood from his heart flowed through his entire body. Ningyu's fist brought along a violent yuan qi gale, and it collided with Di Xiao's fist. Crack! The 2 fists collided, and an extremely crisp sound rang out. Swish! Swish! Then, the 2 figures retreated at a terrifying speed. Ningyu retreated because his internal organs had been shaken by the huge force, and he had no choice but to retreat. As for Di Xiao's retreat, it was because of the human demon. The human demon had allowed Di Xiao to punch Ningyu once, and that was already a huge mistake. How could he allow Di Xiao to attack a second time? Di Xiao wasn't a fool. He had already thought of a way out. He could kill Ningyu with 1 move, and then use his trump card to retreat. But now, it seemed that one of the 2 things in Di Xiao's mind was destined to fail. Di Xiao's move could only seriously injure Ningyu, but not kill Ningyu. As for the second thing in Di Xiao's mind, using his trump card to retreat, it seemed to be a little difficult. The human demon's powerful aura had already locked onto him, and was constantly chasing him. Looking at the human demon's momentum, he would not stop until he caught up with him. Ningyu, Just you wait, Di Xiao, will never let you go. Although it was a little difficult for him to escape, Di Xiao still didn't forget to threaten Ningyu. Di Xiao? Hearing Di Xiao's words, Ningyu slightly frowned, and began to rummage through his memories. So it's him. In just a moment, Ningyu knew Di Xiao's identity. The current palace master of Divine Emperor Palace. Ningyu didn't know much about Di Xiao. He only knew that Di Xiao was the palace master of Divine Emperor Palace, had the cultivation of a half-step saint, and had gone to a mysterious place to cultivate for a period of time. However, Ningyu also knew the relationship between Di Xiao and his family. He had already thoroughly understood the situation of his parents. It was because of Di Xiao that he couldn't reunite with his parents. Crack crack. Clenching his fists, Ningyu's face became extremely ugly. In the past, he didn't have the strength, and under the strong pressure of Divine Emperor Palace, he could only escape. But now, he had already established Supreme Palace. There were quite a few branch palaces inside, and there were quite a few powerful martial artists. Although the low-level strength couldn't compete with Divine Emperor Palace, the high-end combat power was enough to compete with Divine Emperor Palace. Chapter 1710. Project Launch. However, even if Ningyu wanted to kill his way to the Emperor Divine Palace, he had to plan carefully. Supreme Palace had just been established not long ago. Ningyu did not want to destroy Supreme Palace's foundation in the first battle. Actually, Ningyu's original intention was to have Supreme Palace's first battle at the Jin family. After all, the Kim clan had been looking for trouble with him again and again. It was imperative to eradicate the Kim clan. Thinking of this, Ningyu fell into a dilemma. Whoosh! At this moment, the human devil turned into a blur and flew over from afar. You didn't catch up. When Ningyu saw the human demon, he was slightly stunned, feeling a little strange. Di Xiao was only a half-step saint, while the human devil could display the fighting strength of a middle-stage saint. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. There was no reason for the human demon to be unable to catch up to Di Xiao. But this kind of situation actually happened, which made Ningyu so surprised that his jaw almost dropped. Don't mention it. I don't know where that guy called Di Xiao found an advanced teleportation scroll, but he ran away faster than a dog. Ningyu's astonished expression made the human demon feel a little embarrassed. To be honest, human demon himself was very surprised that Di Xiao had the teleportation scroll. Although ordinary low-level instant movement scrolls could also teleport, the movement effect would definitely not be that crazy. After all, the teleportation scroll taken out by Emperor Xiao was something that even human devil, a warrior at the middle stage of the Saint realm, could not cut off from the space. Oh right, you seem to know Di Xiao? Human demon didn't want to talk too much about why he didn't get Di Xiao, so he quickly changed the topic to Di Xiao. To be precise, the human demon wanted to find Di Xiao through Ningyu. As long as he knew where Di Xiao's lair was, he could kill his way there and get rid of Di Xiao. The human devil didn't believe that Emperor Xiao had that many high-grade teleportation scrolls. After all, teleportation scrolls were extremely precious items. Even in high-grade planes, they were considered luxuries. Moreover, the human demon could now display the battle prowess of a mid-stage saint. According to the human demon's estimation, as long as he refined the last Chilean fruit, his cultivation would definitely reach the peak of mid-stage saint. At that time, even if Di Xiao had a backer, he would still be able to kill him without any scruples. Not really. Di Xiao is the palace master of Emperor God Palace. Ningyu knew that the human devil was very angry, but he didn't tell him about the conflict between him and Di Xiao. He simply introduced Di Xiao to the human devil and told him everything he knew. He's just a palace master of Emperor Palace. How dare he kill you in front of me? He must be tired of living. The demonic human's temper flared, and he said angrily, "Let's part ways here. 1 month from now, we will meet at the Alchemy Union in the Dancheng mainland." With that, the human devil stomped his feet on the ground, wanting to leave. Senior. How could Ningyu not know what the human devil wanted to do? At this moment, even if Ningyu was a pig, He could guess the human devil's intentions. Kill his way to Emperor God Palace and kill Di Xiao with his own hand. In fact, there is a great hatred between me and Di Xiao. After thinking about it, Ningyu felt that it was better to tell the human devil about his relationship with Di Xiao. After all, in Ningyu's opinion, Di Xiao had come for him this time, and it had nothing to do with the human devil. If the human devil and Di Xiao became enemies with Emperor God Palace because of him, he wouldn't be able to live with it. Next, Ningyu told the human devil everything about the hatred between him and Di Xiao. Damn it, how can there be such a shameless person in the world? After listening to Ningyu's story, the human devil couldn't help but curse. When the human devil was in a high-level plane, he had been framed and his family was separated. Therefore, he hated people like Di Xiao very much. Don't worry about this. Anyway, I'm going to kill my way to Emperor God Palace and take Di Xiao's head. The human devil's expression was extremely angry, and his face looked a little ferocious. Senior, I know you're doing this for my own good, but I think this matter should be considered at length. Ningyu said. There's no need for that. Let's go to Emperor God Palace now. The human devil's attitude was tough, and he didn't give Ningyu any chance to persuade him. Ningyu knew that since the human devil was determined to go to Emperor God Palace, he couldn't stop him. In this situation, he could only try to get rid of all obstacles. Ningyu was a little worried about killing his way to Emperor God Palace. First, Di Xiao dared to attack him even after knowing that the human devil was a middle-stage Sage Realm warrior. This meant that he had a way to deal with the human devil's revenge. Second, which was also what Ningyu was most concerned about, a way out. Ningyu could simply kill his way to Emperor God Palace. But the result was that he was doomed. There was no way out. The way out that Ningyu was talking about was not himself, but Supreme Palace, Lu Wei, the Dark Emperor, Ninglu, and the others. The Dark Emperor, Ninglu, and the others were already tied to the same rope as Ningyu. They were bound together for good or ill. Ningyu didn't want to rashly kill his way to Emperor God Palace, only to be captured by Di Xiao and then used to threaten the Dark Emperor and the others. The human devil didn't need to think about these things, but Ningyu had to. Since he had established a force, Ningyu had to consider more things. He wouldn't do anything that was 100% risky. After thinking about it, Ningyu said to the human devil, Senior, I won't stop you from killing your way to Emperor God Palace, but I have a condition. Before your cultivation reaches the middle stage Sage Realm, it's better not to go there. I promise you. Human Demon agreed to Ningyu's request without a second thought. In fact, the human devil even leaped into the huge pit and dove into it. He first set up a camouflage on the pit, then took out the second Chileen fruit and swallowed it. The camouflage was to avoid unnecessary trouble. Crack. As soon as the Chileen fruit entered his mouth, the human devil immediately used a spell to refine it. The human devil knew very well that the Chileen fruit had a suppressive effect on the energy seal in his body. The first Chileen fruit had restored his cultivation from the early stage Sage Realm to the middle stage Sage Realm. The human devil was very confident that after refining the second Chileen fruit, his cultivation would return to the middle stage Sage Realm. As for whether he could recover to the late stage Sage Realm, the human devil didn't have any expectations at all. After all, the human devil knew very well that as long as the energy seal in his body wasn't resolved, his cultivation wouldn't be able to recover to the late stage Sage Realm. Fortunately, the human demon was very clear about this point. Because he still had a trump card. Once he used it, he could instantly display the combat power of a sage in the great perfection. However, he couldn't use that trump card for the next 3 days, true dragon blood. While the human devil was refining the Chileen fruit, Ningyu also sat cross-legged beside the human devil and used the spirit transformation art to refine the remaining true dragon blood in his body. Although Ningyu had devoured and refined half of the true dragon blood, there was still half left in his body. Chapter 17:11. Bam! 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 Due to the experience of tempering his body with the true dragon's blood, Ningyu's speed of refining the true dragon's blood was not particularly slow. Ningyu circulated the spirit form art with all his might while using his soul force and the bewitching lotus flame to help. Ningyu was well aware of his current situation. It wouldn't be long before the human demon completely refined the second Chilean fruit and recovered his strength to peak mid-stage sage realm. What Ningyu needed to do was refine the remaining true dragon blood in his body before the human demon completely refined the second Chilean fruit. Whoosh! With the help of the spirit form art, his soul force, and the bewitching lotus flame, Ningyu refined the true dragon blood in his body at a terrifying speed. Time passed quietly as Ningyu and the human demon cultivated. 3 hours passed in the blink of an eye. In these 3 hours, at least a dozen powerful cultivators had arrived above the pit Ningyu and the human demon were in. Without a doubt. The cultivators' goal was clear, to find out why the planar barrier had attacked. But the result was disappointing. They searched the pit for a long time, but they couldn't find Ningyu or the human demon. 3 hours passed undisturbed. Ningyu and the human demon's cultivation came to an end. Boom! At this time, a terrifying aura burst from Ningyu's body. Sky Supreme. The energy contained in half a drop of true dragon blood was terrifying to the extreme. Just by refining it, Ningyu's cultivation had surpassed the half-step Sky Supreme realm and reached the early stage Sky Supreme realm. He really is a monster. The human demon couldn't help exclaiming when he sensed the aura coming from Ningyu. At the same time, the human demon probed Ningyu's body. As soon as he did, the expression on the human devil's face grew even more intense. His soul force has reached early stage 9th rank. It was no wonder the human demon was surprised. In the higher planes, there were quite a few Sky Supremes at Ningyu's age. However, it was extremely rare to find a Sky Supreme with a soul force at the initial 9th grade. Ningyu was just a martial artist from a lower plane, yet he was able to accomplish this at such a young age. It was truly terrifying. Since you've almost recovered, let's set off for the Emperor Palace now. Although he was impressed by Ningyu's monstrous talent, human demon did not forget what he was going to do next. Kill his way to Emperor Divine Palace and kill Di Xiao with his own hand. Whoosh! Leaving these words, the human demon did not give Ningyu a chance to refute. He pushed off the ground and rushed toward the periphery of the Moling mountain range. Ningyu didn't think much of it and immediately followed. Ningyu knew that he couldn't interfere with human demon's decision. Moreover, he had successfully advanced to early stage Sky Supreme and had the Chilean fruit and Chilean blood. Even if he encountered a peak Sky Supreme, he could fight head-on. In fact, if he used all his trump cards, he could even kill a pinnacle Sky Supreme. Di Xiao was a half-step saint. Even if there were other sages in the Emperor Palace, human demon should have no problem dealing with them with his current strength. Ningyu's task on this trip to the Emperor Palace might be relatively simple. Plunder. Plunder wantonly and empty the Emperor Palace as much as possible. Ningyu had a more thorough understanding of this matter, so he naturally wouldn't stop human demon. Ningyu was even a little excited about reaching the Emperor Palace as soon as possible. As for returning to Giant Shield City to meet up with the Dark Emperor and the others, Ningyu didn't think it was particularly important. It could wait until he returned from the Emperor Palace. Wait. Ningyu and human demon were very fast. They arrived at the periphery of the Moling mountain range almost in an instant. Since Ningyu had advanced to early stage Sky Supreme, his flying speed was much faster. Moreover, human demon deliberately slowed down, so Ningyu didn't fall behind. However, as soon as they left the Moling mountain range, human demon suddenly stopped in midair and said in a deep voice, "Hurry up and come out. Someone's here." Hearing human demon's words and the solemn expression on human demon's face, Ningyu's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. A cultivator that could make human demon so solemn must be a sage. If 8 or 10 sages appeared at this time, human demon would probably have a hard time worrying about him. Could it be that something bad had happened just after they left the Moling mountain range and had yet to reach the Emperor Palace? Swish. Swish. This time, Ningyu obviously thought too much. Not long after human demon's voice fell, the void in front of them trembled, and then 2 figures slowly appeared from the void. Middle-aged man, silk-robed cultivator. At first, Ningyu's heart was heavy, but when he saw the two figures in front of him, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. One was the master of the Moling mountain range, the silk-robed cultivator, and the other was the master of the fire Chilean insect king, the middle-aged man. Ever since the planar barrier had struck the Chilean cave, Ningyu had thought the two of them dead. Who would have thought they'd still be alive? Although the silk-robed cultivator and the middle-aged man weren't in a good state, describing them as struggling at death's door was already a compliment. However, the fact that they'd survived the planar barrier's attack was enough to prove their ability. One had to know that the reason Ningyu and Human Demon had survived was all because of the Chilean ring. Did the silk-robed cultivator and the middle-aged man also have a trump card similar to the Chilean ring? "Why aren't you dead?" Human Demon asked Ningyu's question. Human Demon's question was very direct. In the end, Human Demon even said coldly, "If you don't answer honestly, I don't mind loosening your muscles and bones." After the incident in the Chilean cave, Human Demon finally understood some things, and also thought through some things. Needless to say, the middle-aged man had a grudge against him. The silk-robed cultivator didn't hesitate to use immortal crystals to keep him here, so there was definitely something fishy going on. Moreover, the silk-robed cultivator was related to the Passionless Valley, so Human Demon definitely wouldn't let him go. The two of us didn't hesitate to burn our essence blood and use all our trump cards to barely block the planar barrier. The silk-robed cultivator and the middle-aged man looked at each other and said in unison. The two of them didn't want to tell Human Demon the truth. First of all, they were from a higher plane, and they'd come to the immortal spirit region for a certain mission. Since they'd come from a higher plane, there had to be a way back. This time, they'd been able to block the planar barrier's attack because they'd both taken out their treasures to return to the higher plane, and worked together to block the planar barrier's attack. The two of them had a plan in mind. Although the treasures they'd used to return to the higher plane had been broken into many pieces by the planar barrier, they still had some hope that one day they could repair the treasures and return to the higher plane. Because if they told Human Demon the truth, Human Demon would definitely take the broken treasures. Chapter 1712. Chapter 1712. Blood drop sect only with hope would there be motivation. Therefore, the cultivator and the middle-aged man lied at the same time. Since you won't tell the truth, there's no need for you to stay. The Human Demon frowned slightly. His figure flashed, his right hand clenched into a fist and punched at the middle-aged man's heart. The Human Demon's punch contained the strength of a peak mid-stage sage. The middle-aged man and the cultivator could lie to Ningyu, but they couldn't fool the Human Demon. The Human Demon knew that the middle-aged man and the cultivator came from a higher plane. There were two ways to return to a higher plane from the immortal spirit realm. The first was to communicate with the plane barrier and try to break the seal. Since the birth of the celestial spirit realm, only a few heavens had been able to do this. The second way was to sneak in. The so-called smuggling, as the name suggested, was to use certain magic treasures, secret techniques, and other things that could deceive the planar barrier to cross the sea, to steal the beam and replace the pillar. The middle-aged man and the cultivator definitely didn't have the ability to do the first way. The second way was the key to their return to a higher plane. However, the Human Demon didn't know whether they would use magic treasures or secret arts to return to a higher plane. If it was magic treasures, the Human Demon could snatch them. If it was secret arts, he could force them to tell him. In any case, he couldn't let the middle-aged man and the cultivator leave today. I'll talk. Seeing that the Human Demon's fist was about to land on his chest, the middle-aged man hurriedly shouted, "We were able to block the attack of the plane barrier mainly because of these." As he spoke, the middle-aged man took out 2 stones. Although they were 2 stones, anyone with a discerning eye could see that they were originally one, but had been split in half by some powerful external force. The 2 stones were each the size of a fist. The color of the stones was rather dim, giving off an extremely surreal feeling. There was even a drop of dark gold blood in the stone. Blood drop stone. This stone was called a blood drop stone. Every single blood drop stone contained a drop of dark golden blood. In the higher planes, some people said that the blood inside was the blood of a true dragon, some said it was the blood of a Chilean, and some said it was the blood of an immortal. The human devil didn't really care what kind of blood was in the blood drop stone. What human demon cared about was the middle-aged man's identity. In a high-level plane, there was a sect that specialized in mining blood drop stones. That sect was named the Blood Drop Sect after the blood drop stone. The Blood Droplet Sect and the Heartless Valley were both powerful forces in the higher planes. Although the overall strength of these two sects was about the same, the Blood Droplet Sect's way of doing things was more sinister, so the strength they displayed in the higher planes was more terrifying. "Are you from the Blood Drop Sect?" The human demon suddenly stopped and stared at the blood drop stone in the middle-aged man's hand. He said in a low voice, "Answer me truthfully." "I'm from the Blood Droplet Sect. I've come to the immortal spirit realm on the orders of an elder of the sect to find a Chileen." Seeing the human demon's serious expression, the middle-aged man's confidence rose for no reason. The Blood Drop Sect style of doing things was extremely ruthless. The middle-aged man believed that as long as a demonic human was a martial artist from a higher plane, he would definitely have heard of the Blood Drop Sect. No one who offended the Blood Drop Sect would have a good ending. "Very well, I originally wanted to spare your life, but since you've admitted that you're from the Blood Drop Sect, I can only send you to the next world." The human demon clenched his fists and started moving again. This time, the human demon didn't give the middle-aged man any chance. A fist brought with it a violent yuan qi gale as it ruthlessly smashed into the middle-aged man's heart. Kai kai. The human demon's fist directly pierced through the middle-aged man's heart. Because the human demon could now display the strength of a mid-stage sage, and the middle-aged man's strength had greatly decreased, the middle-aged man was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. After killing the middle-aged man, the human demon didn't forget to kill the middle-aged man's primordial spirit. The primordial spirit was a powerful martial artist's second life. Even if the physical body was destroyed, as long as the primordial spirit existed, it could be used to possess another martial artist. Now that the middle-aged man's primordial spirit was destroyed, it meant that he was dead. Crack. The moment the middle-aged man died. In a room of the Blood Drop Sect in a higher plane. There were originally two martial artists in the room. One was a slightly older elder, and the other was a younger youth. At this moment, the slightly older elder suddenly stood up and slammed his fist on the table in front of him, shattering it. "I'm so angry." The slightly older elder clenched his fists tightly, and the veins on his face bulged. He was furious to the extreme. "Elder Mu, what's going on?" the younger youth asked with a frown. "Things might be a little troublesome. The martial artist who helped me to the celestial spirit realm was killed." Although the elder was angry, his attitude towards the youth was rather respectful. After all, the youth was the most advantageous contender for the position of the next sect master in the Blood Drop Sect. "You mean that there's no way to find the Chileen flesh?" Hearing the elder's words, the youth's face instantly turned cold. The Chileen flesh was the crux of the youth's cultivation for the next few years. With the Chileen flesh, the youth could use some secret technique to forcefully raise his cultivation by a level. As long as his cultivation could increase by a level, the youth had a high chance of fighting for the position of the Blood Drop Sect's sect master. The elder was one of the people that the youth trusted the most in the Blood Drop Sect, and he had entrusted the task of finding the Chileen flesh to the elder. Who would have thought that the elder would mess up the task? How could the youth not be angry? Although he was angry, the youth did not fly into a rage. After all, the elder's cultivation was not low, and he was a capable helper in the fight for the position of the sect master. He did not want to lose this powerful helper before he could become the sect master. "Leave this matter to me. I will definitely bring the Chileen flesh to the Blood Drop Sect within the stipulated time," the elder called Elder Mu said solemnly. "I know the martial artist you sent to the celestial spirit realm. His strength is enough to do as he pleases in the celestial spirit realm. Even he failed, I'm afraid." The youth shook his head lightly and did not continue his sentence. There were some things that the youth would not finish, and he would let his subordinates speculate on their own. "I understand. I will personally make a trip to the celestial spirit realm and use one of my primordial spirits." How could Elder Mu not know what the youth meant? Originally, Elder Mu had wanted to send another martial artist to the celestial spirit realm so that he could cultivate properly and strive to improve further. Now, it seemed like he had to use one of his primordial spirits to head to the celestial spirit realm. It was for no other reason than to find the Chilean flesh and successfully bring it back to the Blood Drop sect. Chapter 1713. Chapter 1713. Blood intertwining. The human demon didn't know what had happened in the Blood Drop sect. But even if he knew, he wouldn't pay too much attention to it. This was the immortal spirit realm, and there was a plane barrier here. Even if the Blood Drop sect sent experts over, their cultivation would be greatly suppressed. As long as the Blood Drop sect didn't send experts that surpassed the Sage realm, the human demon wasn't afraid. You should have a Blood Drop stone on you. Hand it over. After casually killing the middle-aged man, the human demon turned to stare at the cultivator in embroidered clothes. You only have one chance. I hope you can grasp it. As he spoke, the human demon unleashed his powerful aura, suppressing the cultivator in embroidered robes. The reason why the human demon treated the embroidered robed cultivator this way was not because he wanted to kill him, but because he wanted to scavenge the information he needed from him. The cultivator in embroidered clothes was from the Heartless Valley. Normally, a core disciple of a large sect like this would have a seal left behind by an expert of the sect. If someone tried to devour the memories of a core disciple, the seal would explode. Large sects all had many secrets. When it came to guarding against secrets, large sects were especially cunning. They wouldn't leave any flaws for their competitors. Here, I'll give it to you. Under the pressure of the human demon's powerful aura, the cultivator didn't even last a second. He hurriedly took out a blood drop stone and threw it to the human demon. Pa! The human demon stretched out his right hand and firmly caught the blood drop stone thrown by the brocade-robed man. The human demon frowned slightly after catching the blood drop stone. The blood drop stone thrown by the cultivator was slightly different from the one the middle-aged man took out. The middle-aged man's blood drop stone had already been broken in half by the plane barrier. As for the cultivator's blood drop stone, there was only a small crack in the middle. I want to ask you a few questions. I hope you can answer me honestly. The human demon casually threw the blood drop stone to Ningyu and said to the cultivator, I will definitely answer as long as you promise not to kill me. The cultivator nodded hurriedly, afraid that the human demon would suddenly attack him. The scene of the demonic human killing the middle-aged man still lingered in the mind of the embroidered-clothed cultivator. Back in the Chilean cave, the brocade-clothed cultivator learned that the middle-aged man was an expert from the Blood Drop sect. The Blood Droplet sect's strength was about the same as the Heartless Valley's. The human demon didn't even frown when he killed the people from the Blood Droplet sect. From this, it could be seen that if he offended the human demon wouldn't show mercy. In order to survive, the embroidered-clothed martial artist decided to say everything he knew. Go. The human demon grabbed the brocade-robed cultivator's shoulder, and his figure flashed as he flew into the distance. From the human demon's point of view, the matter between him and the Passionless Valley was a personal grudge. It wasn't appropriate for Ningyu to get involved. Moreover, the human demon did not want Ningyu to offend the Heartless Valley before he even entered the high-level plane. Ningyu could more or less guess what human demon was thinking. Since human demon didn't want Ningyu to know, Ningyu wouldn't be stupid enough to ask. The blood droplet stone is a good item. Ningyu retracted his consciousness and looked at the blood droplet stone in his hand. In his previous life, Ningyu was an alchemist who was infinitely close to becoming a pill sovereign, so he had some understanding of the blood droplet stone. However, Ningyu didn't know much about the blood droplet stone. He only knew that it was very precious and could be used as the main ingredient to refine a certain kind of pill. As for what kind of pill it was, even Ningyu in his previous life didn't know. Let me see what's so special about you. Ningyu's mind moved, and he used his powerful perception to carefully approach the blood droplet stone, wanting to enter it. At first, when Ningyu's perception approached the blood droplet stone, there were no changes. However, when Ningyu's perception entered the blood droplet stone and touched the drop of dark gold blood, the blood droplet stone finally changed. Crack! The blood droplet stone, which was already cracked, suddenly broke into two halves. The drop of dark golden blood inside suddenly fell to the ground. At this critical moment, Ningyu hurriedly swung his hand, wanting to throw the blood droplet stone away. However, under such circumstances, Ningyu was clearly half a beat slower. The dark gold blood in the blood droplet stone flowed along Ningyu's palm and frantically entered his body. Get out! Ningyu knew that he had gone overboard this time. He hurriedly transferred all the soul power in his body to his arm, wanting to force the dark gold blood out of his arm. Kai! 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 When the dark gold blood and Ningyu's soul power came into contact, a sizzling sound was heard. A portion of the dark gold blood was forced out of his body by Ningyu's soul power. The other portion of the dark gold blood broke through Ningyu's soul power defense and continued drilling towards Ningyu's heart. Demonic lotus flame. Ningyu's expression turned extremely grave. Since his soul power could not resist the dark gold blood's corrosion, he directly mobilized the demonic lotus flame, hoping to stop the dark gold blood's advancement. The demonic lotus flame was a very terrifying flame. Its core temperature was ridiculously high. Under the encirclement of the demonic lotus flame, another portion of the dark gold blood was forced out of his body. Although dark golden blood was constantly being forced out of the ground, there was still a small amount of dark golden blood that successfully reached Ningyu's heart. God of War blood. Ningyu realized the severity of the problem. He took a deep breath and immediately unleashed the God of War body to the extreme. Ningyu had the God of War body, and his heart had already produced the God of War body's blood. Coincidentally, the God of War body's blood was also dark gold. Swoosh! A stream of dark gold blood swept out from Ningyu's heart. In the blink of an eye, it arrived beside the dark gold blood in the blood droplet stone. What happened next made Ningyu's mouth slightly open in disbelief. The dark gold blood in the blood droplet stone was instantly devoured as soon as it came into contact with the God of War body's blood. Nothing was left. Buzz. After the dark gold blood in the blood droplet stone was devoured, Ningyu clearly felt that his God of War body had matured a little more. Previously, the reason why Ningyu did not use the God of War body when fighting others was because he felt that the God of War body had reached a bottleneck. Even if he used it, it would not be of much help to him. The strength of the God of War body was closely related to the dark gold blood that was produced at the heart. If only one drop of dark gold blood was produced, then the power of the God of War body would not be particularly strong. If he could produce 2 drops of dark gold blood, or even dozens of drops, then the power of the God of War body would be displayed. For a long period of time, the dark gold blood produced by Ningyu's heart was maintained at around 5 drops. Ningyu didn't deliberately cultivate, nor did he deliberately think of ways to increase his dark golden blood. But now, Ningyu's expression changed for the first time. Chapter 17:14. Thud, thud, thud. The dark golden blood in the blood drop stone could aid in the birth of the war god body's blood. Ningyu had to pay attention to this matter. Swoosh! Ningyu forced a drop of dark golden blood out of his body and inserted it into the remaining blood drop stone. TSK, TSK. As expected, what happened next verified Ningyu's guess. The blood in the blood drop stone could indeed aid in the birth of the war god body's blood. Could it be the war god body's blood as well? Ningyu's brows furrowed as he started to ponder about the blood drop stone. If the dark golden blood in the blood drop stone was the war god body's blood, then things would be a little scary. Each blood drop stone contained a drop of dark golden blood. In fact, the blood drop sect even had a huge stockpile of blood drop stones. With so many blood drop stones, how many war god bodies would they have to kill? Just the thought of it made one's hair stand on end. Looks like I have to ask the human demon about the blood drop sect. Ningyu made up his mind. When the human demon returned, he would definitely ask about the blood drop sect. Ningyu was not a savior. If the blood drop sect really killed other war god bodies, he would not rashly make an enemy out of them. The only thing that Ningyu was worried about was that the blood drop sect would find out about his identity as a war god body and harm him. Of course, it was a little early for Ningyu to think about these things. After all, Ningyu had not charged out of the cage of the immortal spirit realm yet. Although it was a little early to think about these things, it was always good to prepare for a rainy day. Some things had to be thought about in advance and think of a way to deal with them. Otherwise, when things came to him, he would often be flustered and at a loss on what to do. Ningyu did not want to do that, so it was imperative to understand the blood drop sec. In the following period of time, Ningyu focused on devouring and refining the dark golden blood that he had just obtained. After more than 10 minutes of refining and devouring, Ningyu discovered that the dark golden blood in his heart had increased from 5 to 6 drops. Although it was just one more drop of dark golden blood, this extra drop of blood increased Ningyu's strength by a lot. I'll use this time to practice the netherworld samsara palm. Ningyu looked into the distance and realized that the human devil had no intention of returning. He immediately decided to cultivate the netherworld samsara palm. As for the netherworld samsara palm, Ningyu had already cultivated it to the 10th palm, the yin-yang palm. The 11th palm strike was called the palm of creation, and it was extremely powerful. According to Ningyu's estimation, with his current state, it wouldn't be long before he could successfully cultivate the palm of creation. Whoosh! Before Ningyu could start cultivating the palm of fortune, a figure flew over from afar. Human demon. The human demon's figure flickered, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared beside Ningyu. Since the human demon was here, Ningyu naturally gave up on cultivating the palm of fortune. Ningyu knew very well that with the human demon's personality, he would definitely go to the Emperor Divine Palace. It wasn't the right time to cultivate the palm of fortune at this time. After returning, the human demon was in no hurry to leave. Instead, he looked at the shattered blood drop stones and asked doubtfully, "Where did the blood in these 2 blood drop stones go?" "I devoured them." Ningyu didn't hide anything from the human demon and answered truthfully. "What?" Hearing Ningyu's words, the human demon's mouth opened wide in shock, and his entire body froze on the spot. The human demon's exaggerated expression made Ningyu feel even more incredulous. Could it be that the human demon didn't know that the blood in the blood drop stones was the blood of the war god physique? In truth, Ningyu was right. The human demon didn't know what kind of blood was in the blood drop stones. In the higher planes, many people had studied the blood drop stones, and even martial artists who had surpassed the sage realm had done so. Without exception, all the martial artists who had studied the blood drop stones had failed. Besides the absolute upper echelons of the blood drop sect, no one knew what kind of blood was in the blood drop stones. A portion of them had tried to devour the blood drop stones' blood, and there was no lack of sage realm martial artists among them. However, those sage realm martial artists who had devoured the blood had all suffered a backlash. Now, Ningyu said that he had devoured the blood drop stone's blood and was still standing on the spot as if nothing had happened. How could the human demon not be shocked? "Are you sure you've devoured and refined the blood drop stone's blood?" The human demon still didn't quite believe it. He asked again to confirm it. "That's right." Ningyu nodded, expressing that he absolutely wouldn't lie to the human demon. "Why can you devour the blood drop stone's blood? Why can you?" The human demon seemed to be in a daze as he muttered incessantly. The reason why the human demon had such a reaction was because he had a friend who had also devoured the blood drop stone's blood in a higher plane. At that time, his friend had suffered heavy injuries. Helpless, he could only devour the blood drop stone's blood and pray for a miracle. Unfortunately, the miracle didn't happen. His friend had almost died. Although his friend didn't die, his current situation was no different from death. He could only rely on a large number of treasures to sustain his life every day. "I got it." Suddenly, the human demon seemed to grasp something. He slapped his thigh and unleashed his powerful perception, directly entering Ningyu's body. Ningyu didn't know why the human demon had such a reaction, but he could only pray that the human demon didn't do anything out of line. 6 drops of war divine body blood, and one of them was only born recently. With the human demon's powerful perception, he could naturally easily discover the situation in Ningyu's body. This shocking discovery resolved all the doubts in the human demon's heart. The blood in the blood drop stones should be war divine body blood without a doubt. The human demon took a deep breath, his expression turning even graver. There were countless blood drop stones in the blood drop sect. No wonder so many war divine bodies would disappear for no reason in the higher planes. Now that he thought about it, those missing war divine bodies must have been captured by the blood drop sect and used to make blood drop stones. Senior, I want to know more about the blood drop sect. At this time, Ningyu asked cautiously. The power of the blood drop sect is not something you can imagine. With your current strength, it's better not to ask about it. The human demon looked at Ningyu meaningfully, then said, what we need to do now is to kill our way to the Emperor Palace as soon as possible, then seize all the resources there so that I can recover to the late stage of the Sage Realm. After knowing that the blood drop stones contained war divine body blood, the human demon's mind became active. He wanted to recover to the late stage of the Sage Realm as soon as possible, then use the Chilean natal blood to reach the Great Perfection Sage Realm. At that time, he could think of a way to return to the higher plane. In the immortal spirit realm, the density of Yuan Qi and the resources could not satisfy his cultivation needs. Only by returning to the higher plane as soon as possible could he completely solve the problem of the energy seal in his body. Since Di Xiao had the cultivation of a half-step sage, it meant that there must be other sages in the Emperor Palace. At this moment, the human demon's heart even began to waver. He wanted the ability that he had sealed. Chapter 1715. Chapter 1715, Divine Empress Wish. The human devil did things swiftly and decisively, leaving as soon as he said so. A moment ago, he was still warning Ningyu not to investigate the blood drop sect. But the next moment, his figure flickered and he flew away. Since the human demon had left, there was no need for Ningyu to stay. His figure flickered and he followed closely behind the human demon. The middle-aged man from the blood drop sect and the cultivator from the unrequited love valley were just a small interlude. After the interlude, Ningyu and the human demon moved at full speed to reach the Emperor Palace as soon as possible. Ever since he successfully reached the Heavenly Supreme Realm, Ningyu wasn't particularly resistant to attacking the Emperor Palace. Since the human demon had dealt with the saints, his task was to deal with the remaining heavenly sovereigns. With Ningyu's current fighting strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to deal with pinnacle heavenly sovereigns. From the Moling mountain range to the Emperor Palace, Ningyu and the human demon would arrive in 2 to 3 hours if they moved at full speed. However, Ningyu and the human demon had to stop after moving at full speed for an hour. The Emperor Palace was one of the most powerful forces in the Sky Demon region, so its defense was naturally the best. To reach the main gate of the Emperor Palace, they had to pass through several checkpoints. The first checkpoint was the Emperor City. As the largest city under the Emperor Palace, the Emperor City was twice the size of the Giant Shield City and the 100 Flowers City. Moreover, the defensive array of the Emperor City was also several times more terrifying than the peerless killing array of the Giant Shield City. The reason why Ningyu and the human demon stopped wasn't because they encountered danger, but because they had reached the main gate of the Emperor City. I'll help you hide your aura and we'll try to sneak into the Emperor City. The human demon's expression was extremely grave. Even though his strength had recovered to the middle phase Saint Realm, he was still extremely cautious. Although the defensive array of the Emperor City wasn't activated and there were only Earth sovereigns guarding the city gate, the human demon was still extremely cautious. What the human demon was concerned about wasn't the number of martial artists guarding the gate of Emperor City. He was concerned about two things. The first one was the city defense array of Emperor City. To be honest, once the grand array of Emperor City was activated, even human fiends wouldn't be able to get out in a short time. Secondly, the human demon sensed the energy of a few saints in Emperor City. It was obvious that there were more than one sage in Emperor City. As for the saints in Emperor City, he had no idea whether they were early stage or mid-stage saints. Human demon really wanted to get to Emperor Divine Palace as soon as possible, but it was not human demon's style to act rashly before figuring out how strong the enemy was. The human demon's thinking was simple. He would sneak into Emperor City first, then find a way to find out the cultivation level of the saints hidden in Emperor City. Once they figured out the situation of Emperor City, the human demon would be the first to act. Stop right there. Ningyu and the human demon changed their appearances slightly and walked side by side. But as soon as they arrived at the city gate, they were stopped by a 5th-grade Earth Supreme Guard. The guard didn't ask Ningyu and the human demon for spirit crystals. Instead, he took out a palm-sized crystal and circled around Ningyu and the human demon in a clockwise direction. The 5th-grade Earth Supreme held the crystal and circled around Ningyu and the human demon, but the crystal didn't change at all. "Let's go in." The 5th-grade Earth Supreme put away the crystal and waved his hand, indicating that Ningyu and the human demon could enter Emperor City. Since they could enter Emperor City, Ningyu and the human demon wouldn't risk their lives again. The two of them entered Emperor City unhurriedly. "Don't miss it. If you don't buy it today, buy tomorrow. High-quality rhinoceros skin for only 1 spirit crystal. You won't be able to find it again if you miss this opportunity. The latest elixir was made by Master Tong himself. I'm sure you'll come again after you buy it." As soon as Ningyu and the human demon entered Emperor City, they heard people peddling their wares. The peddling seemed to have attracted the interest of Ningyu and the human demon. They looked left and right and haggled with the stall owner from time to time. They were very busy. The reason why Ningyu and the human demon were in such a state was because several powerful auras locked onto them as soon as they entered Emperor City. According to the information that the demonic human had sent to Ningyu, the weakest amongst them was a pinnacle heavenly sovereign, and there were even a few in the saint realm. Thanks to Ningyu's experience of 2 lives, he was able to withstand the pressure. Otherwise, he wouldn't have faced such a situation with a normal mind. Fortunately, the auras only stayed on Ningyu and the human demon for a few seconds before they moved to others. Although the auras were no longer locked onto them, Ningyu was still calm. Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. In this half an hour, Ningyu and human demon casually bought a few things. "Where are we going now?" Ningyu asked the human demon after wandering on the street for half an hour. "Let's go to a restaurant. That's the best place to gather information," the human demon said. Since ancient times, restaurants had always been a place where crooks mixed with the honest folks. In the restaurant, it was possible to meet otherworldly experts, direct descendants of large clans, and also people from the streets. The human demon had his own considerations when he chose to go to a restaurant. Before entering Emperor City, the human demon already knew that there were several sage auras in the city. Coincidentally, one of the auras of a sage came from the huge restaurant in front of Ningyu and the human devil. The Emperor Restaurant. In Emperor City, the Emperor Restaurant was a business of the Emperor Palace, and it had the highest standard of hospitality in Emperor City. No matter who it was, the requirement to enter the Emperor Restaurant was 100 sacred grade origin crystals. Although 100 sacred grade origin crystals wasn't a lot for real experts, it was still difficult for cultivators below the Sky Supreme level to come up with such a sum. "Wait." An early Sky Supreme guard stopped Ningyu and the human demon in front of the Emperor Restaurant. The guard extended his right hand and said, 200 sacred grade origin crystals. Swish. Ningyu behaved generously and threw an interspatial pouch to the guard. There were 500 sacred grade origin crystals in it. "The rest are yours." Throwing out the interspatial pouch, Ningyu waved his hand at the guard. "Bring us to the best room in the Emperor Restaurant." "Yes." The guard immediately showed respect to Ningyu when he saw the number of origin crystals in the interspatial pouch. In the guard's view, Ningyu was the young master of a major clan, so he came to the Emperor Restaurant just to show off. Chapter 1716. Oppressive aura. The early stage Heavenly Supreme Guard's idea was exactly what Ningyu and the human demon wanted. The master-servant relationship between Ningyu and the human demon was well thought out. Now that they had arrived at Emperor City, there were many sages and there was a city-protecting array. Under this premise, it was harder than ascending to heaven to reach the Emperor Divine Palace. Therefore, Ningyu and the human demon decided to start from another angle. They wanted to pretend to be a young master or a guard of a big family and spend lavishly in the Emperor Restaurant to show that they didn't lack money. That was the only way to attract the attention of the senior officials of Emperor City and secretly control them. Then, They would find a way to figure out the truth about Emperor City and the Emperor Palace. To be honest, the extra 300 Saint-grade essence crystals made Ningyu feel a little pained. Now, Ningyu had less than 1,000 Saint-grade essence crystals with him. And these essence crystals were secretly hidden by Ningyu. The more he spent, the less he had. But the 300 Saint-grade essence crystals were indeed worth it. The early-stage Heavenly Supreme Guard took Ningyu and the human demon to the 4th room on the 3rd floor of the Emperor Restaurant. The rooms in the Emperor Restaurant were divided into 3 sections: Heaven, Earth, and Human. There were 2 Heaven stage rooms in total. There were 4 Earth stage rooms in total. As for the people rooms, there were more of them, a total of 16 of them. What the hell is going on? Ningyu stared at the words on the door in front of him, and his face became extremely gloomy. He said in a deep voice, "I asked you to take me to the best room in the Emperor Restaurant. Is the number 4 Earth room the best room?" Ningyu's behavior was extremely arrogant, extremely arrogant. Ningyu even stared at the early-stage Heavenly Supreme Guard as if he was going to attack. Seeing Ningyu's attitude towards him, the early-stage Heavenly Supreme Guard's expression didn't look too good. No matter what, he was an early-stage Heavenly Supreme, while the kid in front of him was only a 1st-grade Earth Supreme. Under the human demon's concealment, Ningyu only revealed his cultivation as a 1st-grade Earth Sovereign. Therefore, the early-stage Heavenly Sovereign Guards assumed that Ningyu was a 1st-grade Earth Sovereign. If a Grade 1 Earth Sovereign roared at a Heavenly Supreme, wouldn't it be disastrous? It was fine for him to lose face, but he couldn't lose face for the Emperor Restaurant. Otherwise, the higher-ups of the Emperor Restaurant would skin him alive. Some time ago, several warriors caused trouble in front of the Emperor Restaurant. Although the guards in front of the Emperor Restaurant stopped the troublemakers in time, the guards were still severely punished after the incident. The reason for this was that the guards did not kill the troublemaker directly. When Ningyu spoke to the early-stage Heavenly Supreme Guard in such a tone, the guard even wanted to kill Ningyu. Because he was afraid of the human demon, the early-stage Heavenly Supreme did not make a move directly. Instead, he said coldly, "The rooms in front are already reserved. The best room is Earth Room 4. Call your boss here." Ningyu said angrily, "I must have Sky Room 1 today. You can't afford to delay my important business. You." The early-stage Heavenly Supreme was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He pointed at Ningyu with his right hand and was about to roar a few words, but he stopped abruptly. Then, the early-stage Heavenly Supreme's attitude became extremely respectful. He said to Ningyu, "Please follow me. I'll take you to Sky Room 1 now." As he spoke, the Sky Supreme made an inviting gesture with his hand. "That's more like it." Ningyu walked toward the 4th floor with his head held high and chest puffed out. The human demon and early-stage Heavenly Supreme followed closely behind Ningyu. "Gentlemen, this is as far as I can take you. Sky Room 1 is just ahead. Please go ahead." At the entrance of the 4th floor of the Emperor Restaurant, an early-stage Heavenly Supreme stopped and respectfully pointed to the front. "It's none of your business. Hurry up and scram." Ningyu waved his hand impatiently. Without even turning his head back, he quickly headed for the number 1 Sky VIP room. "Your acting is quite good." The human demon was a little dazed as he followed behind Ningyu. Ningyu's acting was indeed exaggerated. But this kind of exaggerated performance was very much like the arrogant young masters of big families. In order to attract the attention of the Emperor Restaurant's upper echelons, he had to act like this so naturally that no one would be able to see through him. It didn't take long for Ningyu and the human demon to arrive in front of Sky Room 1. This time, Ningyu restrained his arrogance a little and asked, "Who's inside?" The reason why Ningyu acted like this wasn't because Ningyu didn't want to be arrogant, but because he could be arrogant, but he couldn't be an idiot. There were 2 martial artists in the Sky Series private room. At this moment, both of them released their auras. One was an old man in his 60s or 70s, and his aura had reached early-stage saint. The other was 2 to 3 years older than Ningyu, and his aura had reached the pinnacle Heavenly Supreme. The reason why Ningyu restrained his arrogance was because he was afraid of the early-stage saint in the room. In the face of an early-stage saint's warning, Ningyu would be an idiot if he deliberately acted arrogant. Swish. Facing the pressure of an early-stage saint, the human demon took half a step forward and stood side by side with Ningyu. An aura that wasn't any weaker than an early-stage saint emanated from the human demon, which easily resisted the pressure from Sky Room 1. As for the pressure of a pinnacle heavenly supreme, the human demon did not resist it, but left it to Ningyu. Go. The pressure of a pinnacle heavenly supreme couldn't affect Ningyu at all. The corner of Ningyu's lips rose as he gently waved his right hand before him and a powerful aura emanated from his body. Sizzle. Sizzle. The two auras clashed. Clearly, Ningyu's aura had gained the upper hand. Creak. When Ningyu's aura gained the upper hand, the door of Sky Room 1 slowly opened. Come in. Shortly after, a faint voice resounded from the room. Ningyu didn't show the slightest fear and strode into the number 1 heavenly box. As soon as he entered Sky Room 1, Ningyu felt a gaze staring at him without the slightest fear. There was no need to think about it. The person who stared at Ningyu without the slightest scruple was the Peak Sky Supreme, who was 2 to 3 years older than Ningyu. Since someone was staring at him, Ningyu naturally had to respond. A first-grade Earth Supreme? The Pinnacle Sky Supreme looked at Ningyu. Although he looked calm on the surface, he was actually extremely shocked. In his view, Ningyu was only a first-grade Earth Supreme. With a cultivation of first-grade Earth Sovereign, he was actually able to withstand the pressure of his aura. Furthermore, he even faintly gained the upper hand. This made things awkward. Chapter 17:17. Semi-compromise. I don't believe it. Zhong Kejuan's expression became extremely ugly. No matter what, it wouldn't be good for him if a first-grade Earth Sovereign easily withstood the pressure of a pinnacle heavenly sovereign. He would get back at them the way he lost his face. This was what Zhong Kejuan was thinking. Zhong Kejuan was a practical person. Whatever he thought, he would act accordingly. Buzz. In the next instant, a terrifying aura burst forth from Zhong Kejuan's body, pressing down on Ningyu once again. In order to gain the upper hand, Zhong Kejuan even used some hidden methods. The oppressive aura of a half-step saint. Zhong Kejuan had reached the pinnacle heavenly supreme realm at such a young age, so he naturally had a lot of trump cards on him. A pinnacle heavenly sovereign can actually use the aura of a quasi-saint. Looks like his in the upper echelons of the Emperor Palace. Ningyu's expression didn't change in the slightest when he felt the oppressive aura coming towards him. In fact, Ningyu was very satisfied, extremely satisfied. At the very least, the angrier this pinnacle heavenly sovereign was, the more advantageous it would be for him in the negotiation. As for the pressure of the half-step saint, Ningyu didn't care about it at all. Ningyu had just been tempered by 2 drops of true dragon blood not long ago, and he also had Chilean blood and Chilean lifeblood. Although Ningyu couldn't deal with a half-sage expert for the time being, Ningyu didn't fear the pressure of a half-sage expert's aura. Ningyu's calm performance made the corners of Zhong Kejuan's mouth involuntarily rise. In Zhong Kejuan's opinion, the reason why a first-grade Earth Supreme like Ningyu dared to be so arrogant was definitely because of the guard beside him. Since you want the guards to help you resist the pressure of the imposing aura, fine, I will cut off this thought of yours. With a thought, Zhong Kejuan winked at the old man beside him. His meaning was self-evident. Rumble. Di Tianming was well aware of Zhong Kejuan's action. Di Tianming gently stepped forward with his right foot and an extremely terrifying aura rippled out from his body. Di Tianming was at the early stage of the Saint realm. The aura he was emitting now was very obvious. Di Tianming was putting on a show for the human demons. The two of us shouldn't blindly get involved in a fight between juniors. Let them settle it themselves. To be honest, before Ningyu reached the heavenly sovereign realm, if Ningyu faced such a provocation, he would definitely retaliate without any hesitation. However, Ningyu had reached the heavenly sovereign realm. Human Demon was very confident in Ningyu's current strength. Ningyu's potential was something that even the demonic humans did not have a rough understanding of. However, the Human Demon believed that Ningyu wouldn't feel any pressure against a Peak Sky Supreme. Ningyu stood his ground. Facing Zhong Kejuan's oppressive aura, he did not make any move. Arrogant. Zhong Kejuan's evaluation of Ning Yu was that he was arrogant, conceited, and ignorant. Zhong Kejuan had to admit that Ning Yu was strong, but that was all. He was not ridiculously strong. He might be able to resist the aura of a peak sky supreme, but what about a half-sage? It was harder than ascending to the heavens for a grade 1 Earth Supreme to resist the aura of a half-sage. What? But what happened next left Zhong Kejuan completely dumbfounded. He had used his trump card to display the aura of a half-sage, but it had no effect on Ning Yu. In other words, it was easier for Ning Yu to resist the aura of a half-sage than it was for him to resist the aura of a peak sky supreme. This made things even more awkward. Zhong Kejuan felt like he had been greatly insulted. At this point, Zhong Kejuan was certain that Ning Yu was an old monster that had lived for many years. The only reason he had displayed a cultivation of a grade 1 Earth Supreme was to act like a pig to eat a tiger. What's your cultivation? Zhong Kejuan stared at Ning Yu and said coldly, and how old are you? Zhong Kejuan was now focused on two things. First, what was Ning Yu's cultivation? Zhong Kejuan really wanted to know. Second, how old was Ning Yu? If Ning Yu was a dozen years older than him, or even a few decades older, Zhong Kejuan would definitely feel a little better in his heart. However, if Ning Yu was as he looked, a few years younger than him, Zhong Kejuan would probably collapse. What's wrong? You're not as skilled as me, so you're trying to find out about my background? Ning Yu raised his eyebrows and stared at Zhong Kejuan with interest. I heard you, ahum. At this time, Ning Yu cleared his throat to make himself look pretentious. When Ning Yu cleared his throat, not only did Zhong Kejuan look at him, but even Di Tianming couldn't help looking at him. Why should I report to you what I do in my life? Ning Yu raised the corner of his mouth and looked at Zhong Kejuan with disdain. He said proudly, you're a peak heaven supreme, but you're so weak. You're a disgrace to Emperor Palace. You, Ning Yu's words made Zhong Kejuan lose his temper. This was going too far. This was really going too far. Zhong Kejuan took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. What Ning Yu said was a disgrace to Emperor Palace, and it had nothing to do with him. He didn't need to fall out with Ning Yu because of Emperor Palace. After all, he wasn't from Emperor Palace. Zhong Kejuan's calmness made Ning Yu look at him in a new light. He was mocking Emperor Palace, but Di Tianming could still be so calm. This showed that he wasn't simple. Ning Yu's arrogance was based on Human Demon's powerful strength. In the first round of fight between Human Demon and Di Tianming, it was obvious that Human Demon had the absolute advantage. According to Ning Yu's guess, Zhong Kejuan hadn't fallen out with him completely, so the fight between Human Demon and Di Tianming must have played a decisive role. Haha, let me introduce myself first. At this time, perhaps to help Zhong Kejuan out, Di Tianming smiled and said, I'm Di Tianming, and his Zhong Kejuan. We're from the demon spirit realm. Boom. Di Tianming's words set off a storm in Ning Yu's heart. No wonder Zhong Kejuan didn't fall out with him when he heard him mocking Emperor Palace. At first, Ning Yu thought it was because of the fight between Human Demon and Zhong Kejuan. Now it seemed that Zhong Kejuan wasn't from Emperor Palace had a certain effect. Demon spirit realm? Ning Yu raised his eyebrows and said impatiently, I don't care if you're from the demon spirit realm or the celestial spirit realm. Anyway, I'm taking the heavenly number 1 box. Chapter 17-18. Settling the score. Ning Yu could see it clearly. When he finished speaking, Zhong Kejuan and Di Tianming's expressions clearly changed. Zhong Kejuan and Di Tianming were both at the demon spirit realm, and they were also very strong. Someone who could make their expressions change was definitely not ordinary. First of all, that person had to be at least a sage. Secondly, that person's status in Divine Emperor Palace should be terrifyingly high. Rustle. Not long after, a middle-aged man appeared in Ning Yu's vision. The middle-aged man's gaze fell on the Human Demon as soon as he entered the first skybox. He completely ignored Ning Yu. The middle-aged man had been watching the entire battle between the Human Demon and Di Tianming from the void. Through observation, The middle-aged man gave the human demon a rough estimate. His cultivation was around the peak of early-stage sage. His exact strength wasn't clear, but he was at least at the peak of early-stage sage, possibly even at mid-stage sage. After all, Di Tianming's true battle prowess was at the peak of early-stage sage, and Di Tianming was at a disadvantage against the human demon. Therefore, the human demon's strength was infinitely close to mid-stage sage. I heard that you want to stay in the first skybox and want to chase away my most distinguished guest. The middle-aged man retracted his thoughts and said to the human demon, I'll give you 2 choices. 1. Get out of here as soon as possible. 2. Apologize to Di Tianming and young Master Zhong. Zhong Kejuan immediately. Before the human demon could speak, Ningyu crossed his arms and looked at the middle-aged man with interest. I think the 3rd choice is more suitable for us. Ningyu's sudden interjection made the middle-aged man's face turn a little dark. The middle-aged man was a wily old fox, so he naturally noticed the relationship between Ningyu and the human demon. If he had to choose between Ningyu and the human demon, the middle-aged man would definitely choose the human demon. There was no other reason. One was an early-stage Sky Supreme, while the other was close to mid-stage Sage. If it was anyone else, they would have chosen the human devil. His words are my words, the human demon said indifferently. At this time, the human demon said, from now on, every word he says represents my meaning. The meaning of the human demon's words was clear. Being disrespectful to Ningyu is being disrespectful to me. The middle-aged man's expression turned ugly. The middle-aged man had chosen to appear at this time to suppress the human demon with Di Tianming. It would be best if the human demon could reveal the purpose of their visit. But from the looks of it now, it might be a little tricky. Let's attack together and probe him. Just as the middle-aged man was feeling a little troubled, Di Tianming's words suddenly rang out in his mind. Hearing this, the middle-aged man immediately became enlightened. Both he and Di Tianming were at the peak of the early-stage sage realm. If the 2 of them joined hands to probe the human demon, they should be able to find out the truth about the human demon. However, the middle-aged man was still a little uncertain. Before he made his move, he asked Di Tianming to contact all the demon spirit state sages in Emperor City. In order to reach a deep cooperation agreement with the Emperor Divine Palace, Di Tianming had brought the war immortals from the other big families in the demon spirit realm to express his sincerity. Only in the devil spirit realm could a sage obtain the title of sage. For example, the war god of the An clan, and Qianhao. Each of the 9 big families in the devil spirit realm had more than one war god. How arrogant! After secretly thinking of a countermeasure, the middle-aged man and Di Tianming shouted at the same time and quickly rushed toward the human demon. The 2 martial artists at the peak of the early stage of the sage realm joined hands to attack the human demon. For a moment, Zhong Kejuan was a little dumbfounded. To be honest, Zhong Kejuan did not expect this result. In Zhong Kejuan's opinion, it was really unwise for the middle-aged man to make an enemy of the human demon at this time, as the absolute senior of the Emperor Divine Palace. In any case, the human demon was a martial artist at the sage realm, so he must have a huge force behind him. Making an enemy out of the human demon at this time was definitely bad news for the cooperation between the devil spirit realm and the Emperor Divine Palace. As the youngest genius of the Zhong clan in the devil spirit realm, Zhong Kejuan had already been secretly selected as the next war god. As long as he could successfully cooperate with the Emperor Divine Palace, Zhong Kejuan would be able to get the best resources of the Zhong clan and successfully reach the sage realm. Therefore, Zhong Kejuan did not want to offend the human demon and the force behind Ningyu. However, in Zhong Kejuan's heart, he hoped that Di Tianming and the middle-aged man could defeat the human demon, or even capture the human demon alive. In that case, he could attack Ningyu unscrupulously and let Ningyu have a taste of his true strength. Zhong Kejuan had a kind of almost blind confidence in himself. He believed that the reason Ningyu could withstand the pressure of his aura was largely because of the magic treasures he had on him. It had little to do with his own strength. Zhong Kejuan really wanted to spar with Ningyu and defeat the arrogant guy, Ningyu, fair and square. Rumble. Di Tianming and the middle-aged man used their full strength right from the start. Di Tianming and the middle-aged man did not dare to be careless when dealing with a martial artist who was suspected to be at the mid-stage of the sage realm. Even though they used their full strength, the two of them still secretly warned the sages and even the half-sages around them. Once the human demon displayed his terrifying strength, the sages and half-sages hiding in the surroundings would attack unconditionally. The human demon had long sensed that there were sages and half-sages hiding in the surroundings, so he had been hiding his cultivation of the mid-stage of the sage realm and deliberately revealed his cultivation of the peak of the early stage of the sage realm. On one hand, the human demon did not want to reveal his strength so early. On the other hand, the human demon wanted to capture all the sages in one fell swoop. However, the second idea only lingered in the human demon's mind for a second before it was thrown to the back of his mind. Even though the human demon had the battle strength of the peak of the mid-stage of the sage realm, it would still be very difficult to capture all the sages in one fell swoop. If there was a fish that escaped the net and they contacted the Emperor Divine Palace and the experts of the demon spirit realm, it would be self-defeating. Therefore, the human demon decided to deal with Di Tianming and the middle-aged man first and let Ningyu and Zhongkejuan exchange blows. If Ningyu could find a way to control Zhongkejuan, it would be very helpful for their next operation. Fight outside. With this thought in mind, the human demon shouted in a low voice. Immediately, his figure flashed and he rushed out of the number 1 skybox. Behind the human demon, Di Tianming and the middle-aged man looked at each other. Then, their figures flashed and they disappeared behind the human demon. As for the sages and half-sages hiding in the void, they did not hesitate and followed Di Tianming and the middle-aged man with all their might. From the moment the human demon and Di Tianming fought to the moment they left, only a few minutes had passed. Zhongkejuan did not know how to react for a moment and was a little stunned. Ha ha ha. But soon, Zhongkejuan laughed loudly and the corners of his mouth curled up. He stared at Ningyu and said sinisterly. Chapter 1719. Chapter 1719. Chapter 1719. To be evenly matched, Zhongkejuan was confident that he could defeat Ningyu. Therefore, after the human demon and Di Tianming left, Zhongkejuan bared his fangs. Although killing Ningyu might be a little unrealistic, Zhongkejuan was still very confident that he could defeat Ningyu and make Ningyu kneel down and kowtow a few times. In your opinion, how should we settle this debt? In response to Zhongkejuan's arrogant words, Ningyu did not take any drastic actions. Ningyu's indifferent performance was a little unexpected for Zhongkejuan. From Zhongkejuan's point of view, Ningyu was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. As long as there were no guards by his side, he could easily defeat Ningyu. But now, Zhongkejuan's heart wavered a little. Since Ningyu had such strong confidence, it meant that he had some ability. Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times, then release your mind and let me control you completely. Zhongkejuan looked at Ningyu and said coldly, only then will I consider letting you live. Not a bad idea, I agree. Ningyu muttered to himself for a moment before nodding his head. You agreed just like that. Zhongkejuan couldn't believe his ears. Kneeling down and kowtowing to someone else was something that anyone would consider very carefully. Moreover, not only did Ningyu have to kowtow to him, but he also had to open up his mind and let him control it. Under this premise, Ningyu could still agree without hesitation, which indeed made Zhongkejuan look at him in a new light. What else can I do? You've already made such a huge sacrifice, so I'll definitely fulfill your wish. Spreading his hands out, Ningyu helplessly replied, truth be told, I don't want to spend so much effort to control a pinnacle heavenly sovereign, since I feel that a pinnacle heavenly sovereign isn't useful to me. The first half of Ningyu's sentence was fine, and Zhongkejuan was very satisfied. He was just short of praising Ningyu for being sensible. However, the second half of Ningyu's words made Zhongkejuan so angry that his nose became crooked. In the end, Ningyu had misinterpreted his intentions. He actually thought that he was going to kneel down and kowtow to him, and that he was going to open his mind and let him control it. This was intolerable. Zhongkejuan was instantly enraged. Without saying a word, he immediately moved and charged at Ningyu at an extremely terrifying speed. At this moment, Zhong Kejuan's thoughts were very simple. He wanted to injure Ningyu and let Ningyu know how powerful he was. In the face of Zhong Kejuan, who was constantly rushing towards him, Ningyu's expression became extremely solemn. Although Ningyu believed that his strength was comparable to a pinnacle heavenly sovereign, and that he could even kill a pinnacle heavenly sovereign, Zhong Kejuan was no ordinary pinnacle heavenly sovereign. A pinnacle heavenly sovereign in his 20s should have combat strength infinitely close to that of a half-saint. In other words, Zhong Kejuan's true combat strength couldn't be estimated using pinnacle heavenly sovereigns. Yin-yang palm. With a low roar, Ningyu clenched his right hand into a fist and punched out. The yin-yang palm was the 10th palm of the netherworld samsara palm. Moreover, when Ningyu used the yin-yang palm at the Earth Supreme Realm, its power was incomparable to when he used the yin-yang palm at the Sky Supreme Realm. The difference was at least dozens of times greater. Ningyu's intentions were very clear with his first move. He wanted to test Zhong Kejuan's true combat strength. Child's play. Zhong Kejuan immediately revealed a disdainful expression when he saw that Ningyu actually wanted to exchange blows with him. The reason why Zhong Kejuan had such an expression was because he had used 100% of his strength in his first punch. As a quasi-war god of the Zhong family, one of the 9 great families of the demonic spirit realm, Zhong Kejuan was very clear about not holding back against an enemy. Since he wanted to defeat Ningyu, he should beat Ningyu to the ground right from the start. He couldn't give Ningyu any chance to counterattack. What I want is for you to underestimate me. Ningyu saw Zhong Kejuan's facial expression. With a thought, Ningyu secretly attached the demonic lotus flame to his fist. Even Zhong Kejuan had used 100% of his strength, so Ningyu naturally wouldn't hold back. Not only would he not hold back, but Ningyu would also use his full strength. Ningyu didn't even think about using flames like the Myriad Beast Flame and the Myriad Bone Flame, which were ranked around the 30s of the Mystic Flames ranking. To deal with Zhong Kejuan, he must use the demonic lotus flame. In the first exchange, Zhong Kejuan and Ningyu both wanted to have the absolute upper hand and defeat the other with one move. Therefore, in the first exchange, Ningyu and Zhong Kejuan used their full strength. Swoosh, swoosh. 2 figures dashed quickly in the number 1 skybox. Swoosh, swoosh. Their fists rubbed against the air, emitting a sizzling sound. Bang! In an instant, Ningyu and Zhong Kejuan's fists collided. When the 2 fists collided, an extremely clear sound rang out. Then, the 2 figures quickly retreating to the edge of the room before stopping. It was obvious. In the first exchange of blows, Ningyu and Zhong Kejuan were evenly matched. They were equally matched. He's actually so powerful. Zhong Kejuan was surprised that his first move couldn't do anything to Ningyu. One should know that in order to have the absolute upper hand in the first exchange, Zhong Kejuan had used 100% of his strength. If he couldn't defeat Ningyu with 100% of his strength, he would at least have to use his trump card to defeat Ningyu. In fact, in Zhong Kejuan's heart, he was very reluctant to use his trump card. This time, Zhong Kejuan had a very important task on his shoulders when he went to the Emperor Palace. After all, if he wanted to gain the upper hand in the negotiation with the Emperor Palace, he had to give the Emperor Palace a surprise. Zhong Kejuan's idea for this surprise was relatively simple. He wanted to challenge the current palace master of the Emperor Palace and give the Emperor Palace a show of strength. Zhong Kejuan knew very well that the palace master of the Emperor Palace was only 20 years older than him. If he challenged the palace master of the Emperor Palace and defeated him, he could, to a great extent, reduce the spirit of the Emperor Palace. Although that was the case, Zhong Kejuan felt that he had been insulted by Ningyu, so he immediately decided to use some of his trump cards to teach Ningyu a lesson. Today, you have wings. Fart. After thinking through everything, Zhong Kejuan clenched his fists and stared fiercely at Ningyu. However, before Zhong Kejuan could finish his words, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and his face became extremely pale. Demonic Lotus Flame. When he was exchanging blows with Zhong Kejuan just now, Ningyu quietly inserted the demonic lotus flame into Zhong Kejuan's fist and let it lie dormant in Zhong Kejuan's fist. At the critical moment, when Zhong Kejuan decided to counterattack, Ningyu began to use the demonic lotus flame in Zhong Kejuan's fist. The demonic lotus flame was ranked in the top 5 on the mysterious flame list, and its power was extremely terrifying. Under its attack, Zhong Kejuan spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned bloodless and extremely pale. Get out! However, Zhong Kejuan was a peak Heaven Supreme martial artist and a peerless genius of the Zhong family in the demonic spirit realm. He quickly reacted. Chapter 1720. Absolute Crushing. From the moment he decided to go against Zhong Kejuan, Ningyu had prepared for 2 scenarios. The first preparation was to use the process of punching with Zhong Kejuan to inject the demonic lotus flame into Zhong Kejuan's fist, and then mobilize the demonic lotus flame to further nibble away at Zhong Kejuan's arm. His second preparation was to continue attacking and beat the enemy while they were down. Black Dragon Sword. Ningyu was a practical person. He was prepared to do both. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu took out the Black Dragon Sword and waved it repeatedly, displaying the 10th move of the Emperor God technique, cutting the heaven. Among all of Ningyu's techniques, the strongest was none other than heaven slashing. Although the yin-yang palm was powerful, it was built on the premise that it was perfectly compatible with the demonic lotus flame. Severing the heavens was different. As long as he activated the Black Dragon Sword, he would be able to use the move cutting the heavens. Huala! As Ningyu shouted in a low voice, several sword lights separated from the Black Dragon Sword and rushed towards Zhong Kejuan. I can't believe it. Seeing several sword lights rushing towards him, Zhong Kejuan's heart instantly turned cold. Zhong Kejuan was wholeheartedly dealing with the demonic lotus flame in his fist. How could he be in the mood to fight against Ningyu? Through this period of understanding, Zhong Kejuan could almost conclude that the flame in his fist was extremely terrifying. At the very least, it was ranked in the top 10 of the bizarre flame list. Zhong Kejuan was not a fool. It would be very difficult to escape in a short period of time after being entangled by these flames. This is infuriating. Zhong Kejuan's lungs were about to explode. He had the will but not the strength. If it was before, Zhong Kejuan could still use his trump card to deal with Ningyu. But now, he didn't even have a way to use his trump card. The demonic lotus flame was like a parasite. Once it stuck into his body, it would be very difficult to get rid of it. Zhong Kejuan had very few choices in front of him. They could either cut off one of their arms or be killed by Ningyu's attack. Zhong Kejuan knew that he had to make a choice. It was impossible for him to survive and keep his arm. I will settle this score sooner or later. Zhong Kejuan gritted his teeth and decided to abandon his right arm first before using his trump card to fight against Ningyu. As for the grudge of losing his arm, Zhong Kejuan wanted to blame it on Ningyu. You're quite bold. Zhong Kejuan's action of raising his left arm made Ningyu feel slightly disappointed. Ningyu's heart was as clear as a mirror. He knew very well what Zhong Kejuan meant when he raised his left arm. He had to cut off his right arm and abandon his right arm. Since Zhong Kejuan did this, it meant that Zhong Kejuan had revived this certain death situation. Something's wrong. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have discovered something terrifying and hurriedly retreated. Rumble. Ningyu had only retreated a few steps when the space where he had been standing suddenly exploded. A figure appeared in the blasted void. A saint. Sensing the terrifying aura emanating from this figure, Ningyu's face turned extremely ugly. Ningyu had never expected that a saint would appear at such a crucial moment. It was no exaggeration to say that this saint's aura concealment technique was too brilliant. It was one thing for Ningyu not to discover his existence, but even the demonic human who had left not long ago did not discover him. The demonic human had recovered to the peak of mid-stage saint, but even he could not discover the martial artist in front of him. This was enough to show how terrifying this martial artist's concealment technique was. Whoosh! After this saint appeared, the first thing he did was not to kill Ningyu, but to casually disperse the sword ray that Ningyu had slashed out. Although Ningyu was an early-stage Sky Supreme and his sky-severing sword ray was extremely powerful, it was still lacking in front of a saint. After casually dispersing the sword ray that Ningyu had slashed out, This saint easily forced out the demonic lotus flame in Zhong Kejuan's right hand. Uncle Cheong, this time I really have to thank. The saint's sudden appearance made Zhong Kejuan overjoyed. The saint called Uncle Cheong waved his hand, interrupting Zhong Kejuan's words. He said indifferently, "You don't have to thank me. This is my duty. You are the Zhong family's quasi-war god, the most advantageous contender for the next family head. The family head has instructed me to ensure your safety." After saying this, Uncle Cheong turned his head to look at Ning Yu. Then, his figure gradually became illusory and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Zhong Kejuan's sudden appearance and disappearance made Zhong Kejuan's expression very ugly. Zhong Kejuan was a very arrogant person. It was originally a game between him and Ning Yu, but in the end, he still had to ask Zhong Cheong for help. At this moment, Zhong Kejuan had the idea of killing Ning Yu. Regardless of everything, regardless of the demonic human, regardless of the power behind Ning Yu, Zhong Kejuan wanted to kill Ning Yu and ruthlessly trample on Ning Yu. "Kid, I admit that you are very strong. However, in front of me, you are destined to regret being born into this world." The moment the idea of killing Ning Yu appeared, it lingered in Zhong Kejuan's mind. Zhong Kejuan stared fiercely at Ning Yu and said coldly, "I gave you a chance. As long as you knelt down and kowtowed to me a few times, then let go of your mind and let me control you, I will spare your life." Speaking up to this point, Zhong Kejuan paused for a moment before continuing. "The opportunity was placed in front of you, but you did not know how to cherish it. You can't blame me for this." After saying this, Zhong Kejuan's hands waved continuously. He had decided to use his trump card, Buzz. However, Zhong Kejuan was destined to have a tragic ending. His trump card had only been used halfway when he hurriedly stopped. There was no other reason. It was because Zhong Kejuan noticed that the void in the number 1 private room had begun to tremble. 3 figures rapidly flew out of the void. The demonic human, the middle-aged man, and Di Tianming. These 3 martial artists were the 3 martial artists who had gone out to fight not long ago. Moreover, judging from their current state, Zhong Kejuan was almost certain that Di Tianming and the middle-aged man had not gained any advantage. This was because Di Tianming and the middle-aged man's expressions were extremely ugly, extremely ugly. Seeing this, Zhong Kejuan hurriedly stopped using his trump card. Unable to use his trump card, Zhong Kejuan's heart was bleeding. One had to know that once Zhong Kejuan used his trump card, it was very difficult to stop it. If he wanted to stop using his trump card, there was only one way, and that was to use another trump card to stop it. In other words, the appearance of Di Tianming and the demonic human had caused Zhong Kejuan to lose 2 trump cards. 2 trump cards that could save his life. Due to the sudden return of the demonic human and Di Tianming, the atmosphere in the number 1 private room became a little gloomy. Fortunately, this gloomy atmosphere did not last long before it was broken by the middle-aged man. Cough, cough. The middle-aged man first coughed twice, attracting the attention of the demonic human and Ning Yu. He then said in a clear voice, "I, Sun Deshan, represent Emperor Divine Palace to welcome the 2 of you." The words of the middle-aged man, who was also Sun Deshan, made Zhong Kejuan a little dumbfounded. Didn't he go with Di Tianming to test the demonic human's strength? Why did this happen? Chapter 1721. Chapter 1721. A large number of sages. Zhong Kejuan felt worse than if he had eaten *T. Ning Yu was about to be defeated by him. Who would have thought that the guard next to Ning Yu would suddenly return? The guard's return was secondary. What mattered was Sun Deshan's attitude towards the guard. This attitude made Zhong Kejuan feel a little uneasy. Feeling uneasy, Zhong Kejuan used a secret skill unique to the Zhong family and started to communicate with Di Tianming. What's going on? Why does Sun Deshan treat that warrior like this? Zhong Kejuan went straight to the point, not beating around the bush in the slightest, and asked directly. The human demon is very powerful. Sun Deshan and I are no match for him even if we work together. Di Tianming's face also darkened at the mention of the human demon. Di Tianming's expression turned even more unsightly when he recalled the fight with the human demon just now. It was extremely unsightly. After leaving the first skybox, he and Sun Deshan hurriedly chased after the human demon. They wanted to probe the human demon's strength. At the same time, all the sages in Emperor City took action to cheer for them. But Di Tianming had ignored the human demon's speed from the beginning. After leaving the first sky room, Di Tianming and Sun Deshan couldn't catch up with the human demon no matter how fast they sped up. This situation lasted until they were far away from the sages behind them. The human demon stopped. Although the human demon's behavior was a little abnormal, Di Tianming and Sun Deshan still decided to go all out to test the human demon. The result surprised Di Tianming and Sun Deshan. The human demon only threw 2 punches and Di Tianming and Sun Deshan were defeated. Di Tianming was fine. He only fell back a few feet, but he didn't fall or spit blood. Sun Deshan's situation was much worse than Di Tianming's. Not only did he fall to the ground, but he also spit blood and looked pale. One move. The human demon's one move made Di Tianming and Sun Deshan realize how terrifying his strength was. Di Tianming and Sun Deshan thought that even if the human demon hadn't reached the mid-stage sage, he was infinitely close to it. Di Tianming and Sun Deshan did not dare to be careless when facing a human demon who was at the intermediate stage of the sage realm, or was infinitely close to it. Thus, Di Tianming and Sun Deshan immediately compromised and decided to introduce the human demon to the Arch Palace. Even you and Sun Deshan together weren't a match for that human demon? Zhong Kejuan's eyes widened, and his jaw almost dropped. Zhong Kejuan was well aware of Di Tianming and Sun Deshan's strength. In Zhong Kejuan's opinion, if Di Tianming and Sun Deshan joined forces, no sage primary stage expert would be a match for them. Now that Di Tianming had personally admitted that the human demon was very powerful, didn't that mean that the human demon's cultivation had reached the middle stage of the sage realm? Thinking of this, Zhong Kejuan was even more surprised. As the #1 genius of the Zhong family in the demon spirit realm and a quasi-war god, Zhong Kejuan knew what the intermediate stage of the sage realm meant. Sage intermediate stage martial artists represented the peak of the demon spirit realm and immortal spirit realm. If the human demon was really a warrior at the middle stage of the sage realm, wouldn't their trip to the Emperor Divine Palace end in failure? Not only would he fail the mission, but it was also unknown whether he would be able to keep his life. Can we activate the defensive formation of the Emperor City to deal with him? Zhong Kejuan rolled his eyes and proposed a feasible plan. Although Zhong Kejuan wasn't from the Emperor Divine Palace, he still had some understanding of the defensive formation of the Emperor City. Once the defensive formation was activated, it would be difficult for the human demon to leave the Emperor City even if he was really a middle stage sage. The key to activating the defensive formation lies with Sun Deshan. Ever since we returned to the Emperor City, I have been reminding him to activate the defensive formation, but he has been indifferent. It would have been fine if Zhong Kejuan hadn't mentioned the defensive formation, but the moment he mentioned it, Di Tianming was furious. In order to make Sun Deshan activate the defensive formation, Di Tianming had racked his brains. In the end, it wasn't satisfactory. Sun Deshan was like a deaf person, and he didn't respond at all. This situation made Di Tianming want to throw a few punches at Sun Deshan and ask him what was going through his mind. Lead the way, let's go to the Emperor Divine Palace now. Just as Di Tianming and Zhong Kejuan were secretly communicating, the human demon's voice was heard in the #1 sky room. Yes, I will take you there now. Sun Deshan's reaction once again refreshed Di Tianming and Zhong Kejuan's understanding. If it wasn't for the human demon's mild anger, Sun Deshan would have nodded and bowed. However, even if he didn't nod and bow, Sun Deshan's attitude towards the human demon was extremely respectful. As soon as the human demon's voice was heard, Sun Deshan was the first to act and rushed out of the #1 sky room. Behind Sun Deshan, Ning Yu and the human demon left the #1 sky room side by side and disappeared in the blink of an eye. What should we do? Di Tianming looked at the empty room and asked. Although Di Tianming's cultivation was higher than Zhong Kejuan's status in the Zhong clan was much higher than Di Tianming's. The reason why Di Tianming followed Zhong Kejuan this time was to let the Emperor Divine Palace see the Zhong clan's strength, and also to ensure Zhong Kejuan's safety. One was in the light, while the other was in the dark. The Zhong clan attached great importance to Zhong Kejuan's safety. To the Emperor Divine Palace. Zhong Kejuan clenched his fists and an extremely vicious murderous look appeared in his eyes. Zhong Kejuan was a person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. He had lost face to Ning Yu and the human demon, so he had to get back at them. Zhong Kejuan already had a general idea of how to get back at them. However, the premise of everything was based on the situation where they didn't get left behind by Ning Yu and the human demon. Therefore, in order to keep up with Ning Yu and the human demon, Zhong Kejuan tore the void with both hands and immediately went in. Since Zhong Kejuan had already taken action, Di Tianming naturally wouldn't delay. However, before leaving, Di Tianming didn't forget to inform the Zhong clan sages around him. Di Tianming asked the sages to stay in the Emperor City and wait for his and Zhong Kejuan's return. Whoosh! Sun Deshan was from the Emperor Divine Palace. With him leading the way, Ning Yu and the human demon didn't have to worry about running into trouble at the later stages. After all, Sun Deshan had the cultivation of an early-stage sage. In the Emperor Divine Palace, the cultivation of an early-stage sage was enough to rank at the top. Along the way, Ning Yu was very puzzled. Ning Yu's doubts were about Sun Deshan. From the human demon, Ning Yu learned that Sun Deshan's cultivation was at the peak of the early-stage sage and he was already under control. Ning Yu didn't care how the human demon controlled Sun Deshan. What Ning Yu cared about was why a large number of Sage Realm warriors suddenly appeared in the Emperor Divine Palace. After all, the Emperor Divine Palace had spent so much manpower and resources to mine the sacred-grade primordial crystal mine in the Moling Mountains in order for the one-armed warrior to smoothly advance to the early-stage sage. At that time, Ning Yu was almost certain that even if there were sages in the Emperor Divine Palace, there wouldn't be too many. At most, there would be one. Chapter 1722. Chapter 1722. Chapter 1722. Courting Deathning. You did not know why a large number of sages had suddenly appeared in Divine Emperor Palace, but Ning Yu knew that something must have happened to Divine Emperor Palace. As for what had happened to the Emperor Divine Palace, he would have to go there to find out. Ning Yu glanced at Sun Deshan, who was rushing ahead, then at the human demon beside him, and then at Di Tianming and Zhong Kejuan behind him. Ning Yu couldn't help but feel worried. The human demon's true cultivation was at the peak of mid-stage Sage Realm, and his battle prowess was also at this level. To be honest, Ning Yu did not feel safe with the cultivation of a peak mid-stage human demon saint. It's better to prepare early. With a thought, Ning Yu contacted the little Chelin in the Tower of Yuzuan. Ning Yu was very confident in little Chelin's strength. Even though little Chelin only had the cultivation of an early-stage sage, Ning Yu felt that it could fight against an early-stage sage. Ning Yu contacted little Chelin for a full 10 minutes before little Chelin gave Ning Yu a reply. "I'm very weak now. Before I recover, you'd better not look for me again." After listening to the little Kylin's reply, Ning Yu's mouth was slightly agape, a little dumbfounded. After such a long time, the little Chelin still hadn't recovered. At the same time, Ning Yu had a headache. If little Kylin couldn't help, it meant that human demons would be the main force against Emperor Divine Palace. Back in the Moling Mountain Range, Ning Yu had a lot of confidence in the human demon. But now, Ning Yu's mood wasn't that optimistic. The reason was the unforeseen event that had occurred in the Emperor God Palace. We'll reach the main entrance of the Emperor God Palace after passing through the barrier in front. Leading Ning Yu and the human demon, Sun Deshan finally stopped in front of a snow-white barrier. Pointing at the white barrier, Sun Deshan explained, "This barrier is very special. Only the people from the Emperor Palace can enter. If anyone else tries to barge in, they will trigger the surrounding killing formations and kill them." "You mean we can't go in?" Human demon frowned slightly. No, that's not what I meant." Sun Deshan hurriedly waved his hand and said, "I just want you to wait here for a while. I'll go in and inform the people of the Emperor Palace, and then—" "No need, I have a way to break the barrier." The human demon waved his hand, interrupting Sun Deshan. In the next moment, the demonic human took a step forward, clenched his fists, and punched out. Whoosh! Whoosh! In a split second, two rays of cold light shot out and rushed towards the white barrier at a terrifying speed. No! Seeing the human demon suddenly attack, Sun Deshan hurriedly cried out, wanting to stop the human demon. However, Sun Deshan was clearly half a beat too late to stop the human demon. Kai! Kai! In the blink of an eye, two beams of cold light blasted the white barrier. A sizzling sound rang out. Then, the white barrier caved in, and a gap suddenly appeared. Go! The human demon grabbed Ningyu and passed through the gap. This is bad. Seeing that Ningyu and the human devil had crossed the barrier, Sun Deshan knew that he was done for. He hurriedly chased after them. At the rear, Zhong Kejuan and Di Tianming were extremely reluctant to pass through the barrier. Before coming to Emperor Palace, Zhong Kejuan had investigated Emperor Palace and knew everything about it like the back of his hand. There were several theories about the white barrier in front of Emperor Palace. The most convincing theory was that the white barrier was connected to Emperor Palace's palace-protecting Grand Formation. Once the white barrier was forcibly broken, it would immediately activate the palace-protecting Grand Formation. For this reason, Zhong Kejuan really didn't want to follow. But there was nothing he could do. In order to get back at Ningyu, in order to reach an agreement with Emperor Palace, he had to follow them. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhong Kejuan and Di Tianming followed closely, passing through the white barrier in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! No one noticed. There was another figure that passed through the white barrier with Zhong Kejuan and Di Tianming. It was just that almost no one noticed that figure. Rumble. As it turned out, Sun Deshan's warning was correct. As soon as they passed through the white barrier, human demon and Ningyu were hit by a terrifying attack. On the other side of the white barrier, the void trembled and countless cold rays of light rushed out of the void, blasting toward Ningyu and human demon. Since Ningyu and human demon were the first to pass through the barrier, most of the cold rays of light regarded them as the number one enemy. As for Sun Deshan, Zhong Kejuan, and Di Tianming, they were under much less pressure. Child's play. Human demon obviously didn't care about the cold rays of light that were attacking him. He waved his right hand casually, and in an instant, several palm prints flew out and collided with the cold rays of light. Whoosh! The cold rays and the palm prints collided. The result was a little beyond Sun Deshan's expectations. It was human demon's palm prints that won. Is there something wrong with the palace-protecting Grand Formation? Sun Deshan's mouth was slightly open. His first thought was that there was something wrong with the palace-protecting Grand Formation. When Sun Deshan and the other saints arrived at Emperor Palace, the first thing they did was to strengthen the palace-protecting Grand Formation to ensure that the invaders would suffer. Sun Deshan couldn't believe the current situation. The formation that was strengthened by the power of several saints was actually no match for human demon. Not many people would believe this if word got out. That's all. After casually repelling the cold rays of light, human demon curled his lips and said indifferently, "It seems that there's nothing scary about Emperor Palace." As he spoke, human demon raised his head and looked at the main gate of Emperor Palace in the distance. His right foot stepped on the ground, and his figure quickly swept over. Judging from human demon's words, it was obvious that he wanted to force his way into Emperor Palace. Trespassers of Emperor Palace, die! Before the human demon came to the front gate of the Sovereign Palace, a robust voice resounded from the Sovereign Palace. Creak. Then, the main door of the Emperor Palace slowly opened and two figures strode out of the Emperor Palace. Ningyu's eyes moved and fell on the two figures. Ningyu wasn't familiar with one of the figures, but from the aura exuding from his body, Ningyu guessed that he should be at the early stage of Saint Realm. As for the other figure, Ningyu couldn't be more familiar with him. The current Palace Master of Emperor Palace, Di Xiao. Ningyu only had one thought in his mind about Di Xiao, the executioner who broke up his family in this life, and that was to kill him. However, Ningyu was very clear that with his current strength, even if he used all his trump cards, he would still be no match for Di Xiao. This was because Di Xiao's cultivation had increased by a small level compared to when he went to Moling Mountain Range not long ago. Early stage of Saint Realm. Not long ago, Di Xiao was still at the half stage of Saint Realm. Not long after, Di Di Xiao's cultivation had actually increased to the early stage of Saint Realm. So it's you little bastard. When Ning Yu noticed Di Xiao's eyes also fell on Ning Yu. Chapter 1723. Chapter 1723, Betrayal. Old dog, we're doomed to end the feud between us today. Ning Yu clenched his fists, and a ferocious look appeared on his face. Di Xiao had destroyed his family, and he had to avenge it. At this moment, Ning Yu even wanted to use the Qilin lifeblood. The Qilin lifeblood was comparable to the true dragon lifeblood, and it contained extremely terrifying energy. With Ning Yu's current cultivation, he had no chance of winning even against a half-saint, let alone an early-stage saint like Di Xiao. However, since the enemy had already said so much, if they were to retreat blindly, they would be completely suppressed by the other party in terms of momentum. Therefore, Ning Yu secretly made up his mind. Today, even if he had to use the Qilin lifeblood and risk of being devoured, he would let Di Xiao know who he could and could not offend. Ha ha ha. Di Xiao seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He threw his head back and laughed wildly, and then said in a sinister tone, "A mere early-stage Sky Supreme trash wants to end things with me? You're overestimating yourself." As soon as he said the word strength, Di Xiao's figure flashed, and he rushed towards Ning Yu. Di Xiao's intention was clear. He wanted to severely injure Ning Yu, and let Ning Yu know what cruelty was. Seeing Di Xiao approaching him, Ning Yu did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly separated a wisp of his soul power into his storage ring, and wanted to use the Qilin lifeblood. Come back. However, before Ning Yu could use the Qilin lifeblood, the other martial artist who came out with Di Xiao said in a deep voice, "Stay aside, and don't speak without my permission." Swish. Di Xiao had originally wanted to severely injure Ning Yu, but the sudden shout in his ear made him not dare to have the slightest bit of hesitation. He immediately turned around and returned to the back of another warrior. The sudden change not only surprised Ning Yu, but even the human demon was a little shocked. Moving his eyes, the human demon's eyes fell on the other martial artist. Middle stage saint. The human demon's perception was much stronger than Ning Yu's. Ning Yu deduced that the warrior in front of Emperor Xiao was at the early stage of Saint Realm, but the human devil deduced that the warrior was at the middle stage of Saint Realm. Even though he knew that the other party was a mid-stage saint, the human demon did not show any fear. There was no other reason. The other party was only at the saint intermediate stage and had not reached the peak of the saint intermediate stage. In other words, a single human demon could easily deal with several martial artists of this level. Hihi, an esteemed guest has arrived. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. The warrior in front of Emperor Xiao smiled at the human devil and said, "Let me introduce myself. My name is He Jiming." "I don't care if you're He Jiming or Zhu Jiming. I only have one request today." The human demon didn't give He Jiming any face. He raised his right hand, pointed at Di Xiao, and said, "Take his life." Hua. The human demon's words made He Jiming's face darken. He Jiming thought that speaking to the human devil in this tone was already giving the human devil enough face. Who would have thought that the human demon would not know when to back down and would actually want to kill Di Xiao in front of him? No matter what, Di Xiao was the current palace lord of Emperor God Palace, and his talent was extremely high. One of the reasons he came down from a higher plane this time was because of Di Xiao. Now that the human demon wanted to kill Di Xiao, how could He Jiming tolerate it? "I'm giving you face, but you don't want it." He Jiming was thoroughly enraged. The anger on his face burst out unabashedly. "Sun Deshun, what are you waiting for? I order you to act now and take down this arrogant bastard." He Jiming stared at Sun Deshun and said coldly. He Jiming was no fool. On the contrary, being sent down from a higher plane, He Jiming was very, very smart, and could be said to be extraordinarily intelligent. Because the human demon had slightly concealed his aura, He Jiming didn't know what the human demon's cultivation was. To be on the safe side, He Jiming would definitely let Sun Deshun test the human demon's strength first before deciding whether or not to suppress the human demon. Hearing He Jiming's order, Sun Deshun's entire face turned bitter. It's better to make enemies than to resolve them. In my opinion, we should all sit down and have a good talk, lest both sides suffer. Biting his lip, Sun Deshan said something that greatly angered He Jiming. The human demon was about to kill Di Xiao, and you actually said something like it's better to make enemies than to resolve them. This was simply boosting the other's morale and diminishing your own prestige. He Jiming was especially furious. In fact, Sun Deshan was very helpless, extremely helpless. He Jiming didn't know, but his heart was as clear as a mirror. The control of his body no longer belonged to him. Not long ago, when he was chasing after the human demon with Di Tianming, he was already controlled by the human demon. It could be said that if the human demon wanted him dead by midnight, he would definitely not live past midnight. Going against the human demon for He Jiming? Sun Deshan wasn't that stupid. In fact, Sun Deshan even made a simple analysis of the current situation. In terms of raw strength, He Jiming wasn't the human demon's match. Even if all the sages from the higher planes joined forces, they still might not be the human demon's match. Under this premise, even if the human demon wanted him to attack He Jiming, he would do it without hesitation. Sun Deshan, I'll give you one last chance. Taking a deep breath, He Jiming tried his best to calm himself down. The more critical the moment, the less flustered he was. This was the main reason He Jiming was sent down. Kill him, and I'll pretend today's matter never happened. Otherwise, I'll hand you over to the disciplinary hall. He Jiming pointed at the human demon and said coldly, "This is your last chance. I hope you don't do anything stupid. Kill Di Xiao." Before Sun Deshan could answer He Jiming, the human demon's words came out. Xiao. As soon as the human demon's voice fell, Sun Deshan dashed towards Di Xiao without another word. Even though Di Xiao was behind He Jiming, and killing Di Xiao required a direct confrontation with He Jiming, Sun Deshan didn't hesitate. Because there were only two paths in front of Sun Deshan. If he killed Di Xiao, he had a chance of survival. If he didn't kill Di Xiao, he would die without a doubt. One thought gave him a chance to live, the other a chance to die. Even a fool would know what to choose. You've disappointed me too much. Looking at Sun Deshan's foolish choice, He Jiming's eyes revealed a trace of disappointment. This look of disappointment only appeared in He Jiming's eyes for a second, and it disappeared after a second. Leave him to me. Just as He Jiming was about to kill Sun Deshan himself, Di Xiao took a step forward and said, "Let me get rid of this scum of the sect." All right. He Jiming originally wanted to kill Sun Deshan himself, but after hearing Di Xiao's words, he nodded lightly and took a few steps back. If Di Xiao could kill Sun Deshan himself, then even if he went to a higher plane, he wouldn't be marginalized. It was equivalent to having an umbrella of protection. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.